Hey guys, welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. Today's episode is a highly requested fall mega video. I have so many fun projects for you. I hope that you enjoy all of these. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing and becoming my crafting BFF. If you do like anything that you see in today's video, remember to hit that thumbs up, but let's get right into the DIYs. I am so excited to show you this project because it is so fun and simple and it turns out so cute. So I'm just showing you that I took some paint sticks and I just cut them down to size. You could easily use some craft sticks or the jumbo craft sticks if you would like. But these bigger sticks I have right here, not sticks, these are like the planks. I think they're just like wood planks. They come 6 or so in a package from Dollar Tree. So I'm just taking 3 of those and I'm just kind of spacing them, you can see, with a little bit of space so it kind of looks like a palette, but I'm also staggering the length. So I push that middle one down just a little bit so that way it kind of gives it the shape of a pumpkin is what I'm going for here. Now this is going to be the back, so again you can use the craft sticks, but I just thought those paint sticks, if you could see those through the little space that I provided there, I liked that. Now I'm just using a pumpkin color of chalk paint here and I'm just going to paint this front and back, make sure it's completely covered. And then I just like to, if you guys have watched me, you know I love to distress everything. So I just take my little emery board and I go all over each of the edges, also in between the little grooves that I left there to kind of give it that worn and farmhouse touch. Now, like a lot of crafters I know, I have a hard time throwing anything away. So this is just a piece off of one of the little sponge tools, the painting tools that I use. And so I'm just sanding the edges so it kind of gives it a fun little softer shape to it. And then I'm just going to paint this with just some green moss colored chalk paint. And this is just going to be the cute little stem to my pumpkin. So I just go ahead and paint this and then I distress it a little bit. And then I'm just going to use some hot glue and then I'm just going to glue that on. And I put my glue down and I kind of then space my pumpkin to make sure that none of the glue is showing up over the edge or anything and that it's a good height to the pumpkin there. So now comes the fun part of embellishing this. So I'm just taking a leaf off of one of the Dollar Tree picks that I had from fall. You use any kind of leaf or anything, even some like a fabric leaf would be really cute. And I'm just gluing that on with some hot glue and just kind of softens the look of it. And I'll just take a little extra glue here, glue down any parts that are sticking up kind of how I don't want them. And then I thought it would be really cute to use some Spanish moss. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue onto the top of the pumpkin. And then you can see here, I'm just putting a little bit of glue on the back. And I'll use my little silicone tool here just to push that down. And then I have this cute little pipberry that I had that came, I got this at Hobby Lobby, but I have seen some at Dollar Tree. So if you can get some there, definitely do that. And I just kind of wrap it around like my brush to give it a little curly Q type of style to it. And I just wrap it on that little stem there, and I thought that just kind of was cute, acted like a little pumpkin vine or something, just a cute little embellishment on there. I love having projects like this and getting to use your creativity to kind of embellish and decorate them. Now I'm just taking some raffia and I'm just going to tie this in a knot around that little stem, and I left it long because I wanted to kind of see how much I needed to cut off. So after I get that tied off, I just kind of eyeball it and do my best judge on like where I want to cut it. And then you can kind of crinkle this with your fingers or to anything you want to do to give it a little bit more of a farmhouse look. But I just take the extra pieces that I have and tie just like a little shoestring, like a loop bow there, and tie a little piece around it. To me, this is the easiest way to tie raffia rather than to actually try and tie the bow. And then I'm just using some hot glue to glue that right over the knot that I tied before. Now this would be really cute to kind of lean up against something, or you could even add it to another sign if you had made a bigger sign, but I just take a little tumbling tower block and glue that onto the back to help it stand. Look at how adorable this turns out. I love it, and it was not that much money to create, so you could definitely do this on a budget, and I think it turns out so cute, and it is definitely that perfect farmhouse fall touch. This is a giant pumpkin sign that I found at Five Below for $3, and I thought it would be perfect to make over. And I'm just using my heat tool to remove some of the stickers on the back, and then I do just tape back that little hanging tag because I didn't want to get any paint on it because I wanted to leave that. And then I'm just going to have this match my decor. It's darling the way that it was, so it would be fine, you know, if you found something like this just to use it, but of course we're going to DIY it and make it match my decor. So I'm just putting some Pumpkin by Waverly chalk paint on here. It takes about 3 coats to cover all of those letters. And then I have this Thankful. This came from Hobby Lobby, and they had a bunch of these last time I was there. They said blessed, thankful, and they had another grateful, I think was what the other one said. But I'm just taking some antiquing wax with a baby wipe, and I'm just going to wipe this over all of the surface of this to give it a nice look of the stained wood. I thought that would be a good contrast. It would be really cute to even just paint it in white or something, or just stain it a natural color to have against that orange on the pumpkin. But I really did kind of like this. I love antique wax. You guys know I use it all the time. Now I'm just taking a little bit of the moss color from Waverly, and I'm just going to kind of paint in this stem. It doesn't stick out a whole bunch, but you do see a little bit of it when I'm done with the project, and so it's kind of nice to have it look kind of authentic. And then I'm just taking a little antique wax on a little teeny angled brush, and I'm just doing a couple of the ridges for the pumpkin here. I'm just eyeballing it. I'm just kind of like hoping as I do this that it turns out okay, and it does, I think, turn out okay. But you just kind of do a couple kind of curved in each direction. You can kind of see curved into the middle of the pumpkin there. And then I do take a baby wipe after I do this to kind of mellow these down because they're really dark. And so I'm just wiping those off kind of in the same curved motion. And then I do end up going over them a little bit with some more orange paint, just to tone them down a little bit so they're kind of very mellow. It looks like before I do that here, this is where I take a little bit of the leftover antiquing wax and just go around the edge. This just kind of helps kind of pop the edge of the pumpkin out, and it gives it a little bit of definition and helps make it kind of look cohesive. So here's where I'm putting that orange just lightly over that antiquing wax. It just kind of helps to blend it in and kind of mellow it down. You can kind of see what that looks like here. Now I just really quickly put hot glue on all my letters. I don't want it to dry before, as I start and get to the end of the letters. I want it to kind of all stick really well. I kind of got a little excess there, so I just kind of peeled that off. Now I'm using my heat tool to get rid of any of those little spider webby things that come from hot glue, when like the little strings. That's a perfect hack to kind of get rid of those. It's just go over it with your heat tool. Now at this part, I decided I wanted to take a little bit of the white chalk paint and just kind of distress the edges here a little bit, kind of give it, I wanted it to pop a little bit more on here, this is when I was thinking, I guess if I had done it white, might have looked really cute also. But I mean, I do like how this looks, but it brightens it up just a little bit and adds a little bit of a more barnwood look to it. So this would be completely optional, but I do really like how this turns out. So you could just leave it like this with the thankful on there, but I wanted to add some embellishment on here because I just love to kind of soften things up with florals and bows and different things. And so I just have this pick that's left over. This was actually from my stash last year, but I feel like I've had some similar ones this year from Hobby Lobby. So anywhere, you could even use ones from Dollar Tree. And I had this little bit of cream hydrangea here that I thought looked really cute with it as well. So I'm just gluing those off to the side. And now I'm just taking some ribbon. This is just the burlap ribbon that I use from Hobby Lobby. And then this is some Dollar Tree ribbon also. And I just loop it around about 7 times. And then I do use a zip tie in the middle of it here. I forget to show you that. And I just zip tie the middle of it. And then I just pull all of the loops out and just kind of fluff this up. I just put a bunch of hot glue down on my pumpkin and then just set this bow down and then just fluffed it up as much as I wanted it to. And then I'm just gluing kind of the tail here, you can kind of see. Now, if you decide this is way too big a bow, at first I was like, ugh, this is kind of big. I end up really liking how it is, but I mean, you can definitely make smaller loops for your bows. But I just take off my little tag on the back there so that way the hanging tag is there. And look at how cute this looks. I love to dress my pantry door for different holidays, and that is exactly where this is going to go. And I think it turns out beautiful. And it's something that will last not only through fall, but through Thanksgiving as well. I have this cute little glow-in-the-dark sign from Dollar Tree, and also these little hanging signs like this. I just pulled one of the squares off of one of those that I'm going to do kind of like a layered sign here. So I start by painting my edges of the sign brown, and then I'm just taking some scrapbook paper and I just trace out a square and cut it out. This is the cute little sunflower pattern that I'm going to use. Now this glow-in-the-dark sign has kind of a texture to it, and I did not want that to show through on my paper at all. So I'm just taking a putty knife and scraping that off. If you've watched my channel, you know that I absolutely love Elmer's school glue, just this purple glue stick here. This time of year when school supplies start to go on sale, I pick it up by the dozens. I mean, I love this stuff. And I've never had a problem with any of my paper coming off of my crafts or anything like that. I get asked that a lot. And I've never had a problem with it peeling back. And I use my brayer here, and I feel like by doing this process right here, I get less wrinkles than Mod Podge. Now you can, after this glue completely dries on the back, go go over the top with Mod Podge, and that will help seal your paper in. I paint my little rectangle a brown color because I thought that would match the best, but then I felt like it was a little dark, so I brightened it up with some dry brushing of some white paint to kind of make it look like wood. Honestly, I could have just painted this a solid white and it would have worked with what I end up doing with it. If you had some cute stencils or stickers, you could easily use them on this. I'll show you what I end up doing, but I did want to show you this option comes from Hobby Lobby. These signs end up being about $2 with their discount they have right now. You could easily use one of those. I designed this picture on Canva and then I printed it on tissue paper. Now, if you're wondering how to print on tissue paper, I'll leave a link to a video where I give you step-by-step instructions on that down in my description box. And also, I will leave a link to this little design. Since I designed this in Canva, I can share it with you. So if you like it and want to use it, I'll leave a link to that also. Now, you just use a traditional decoupage process here, just using any type of Mod Podge. I'm just laying a thin layer of this down on my surface here, and then I will gently lay my tissue paper down. I like to start kind of in the middle, and then I'll just use my finger to smooth out around so that way you can minimize the amount of wrinkles. Now, it is tissue paper, so it does have a tendency to kind of wrinkle up in some areas. It totally looks fine when it's done, so just keep going with it. And sometimes you'll luck out and get no wrinkles or anything, but honestly, it's kind of a weathered looking sign anyway, so it's gonna look wrinkles you're not even gonna see. Now, I take 4 craft sticks and I just stain them with some antique wax, and then I'm just going to glue them around the edge to kind of give this a little bit of a frame, so it looks very similar to that sign I showed you from Hobby Lobby. I just thought the frame kind of added a little something to it, but it would not be necessary. So this step would be completely optional if you decide to put the frame on there or not. It's going to look fine either way. I just was trying to match that Hobby Lobby sign, and I'll show that to you here so you can see them side by side. I think that either one would look absolutely darling. Again, the link to my little design of the Sunflower Farm sign will be down in my description box. It's just on Canva, so if you're familiar with that, you'll know exactly how to use it. Now, I'm just gluing some tumbling tower blocks onto the back of my little sunflower sign here. That gives it a little bit of a 3-dimensional look. And then there's not enough space with my background sign to add like a lot of florals or anything, but I wanted something else there, a little softness or texture. So I just put some Spanish moss in between the gap all the way around my framed sign. So you could leave the sign as is. It would be darling the way that it looks now, but I thought it needed something a little extra for my taste. So I just took some burlap ribbon and I'm just making a little bow. I just made a couple of loops and then I just wrapped a pipe cleaner around the middle. You could use a zip tie too. And here I'm just going to fluff up my bow and get it looking exactly how I want it. To cover that pipe cleaner, I just use a little bit of jute twine that I wrap around and tie off. I also dovetail the ends of my ribbon to kind of give them a finished look there. And I thought this sunflower would be absolutely darling glued into the middle of that. And so I just use a little bit of hot glue and put that in the middle of the bow there. And then I just glue this onto the corner of the sign. I thought the offset look was really, really cute. And I feel like that adds to the missing touch that I felt the sign needed. I think this sign turns out so cute, and it's a perfect transition piece. Kind of when you're done with summer, you're not ready to have full-blown fall. Sunflowers can definitely take you all the way through fall, but I think it's kind of that perfect in-between piece, and I just love that happy feeling you get from the yellow color. Don't forget, if you want that Sunflower Farm sign, just to click the link in my description box and you'll be able to download that. Earlier this year, I purchased this sugar mold off of Amazon. It was like $15 or something like that, and you can see how I've decorated for other seasons. I've done several videos on it. I'll put a link down in the description box for the mold and for the different videos. But I had a few requests to make sure that I showed what I was doing for fall, so here you go. The little pumpkin topiaries came from Walmart. They were like $1.14, and then I just had a couple other picks that I picked up at Hobby Lobby, but you could easily use ones from Dollar Tree, ones from Walmart, whatever your style and your taste like. I'm just letting you know where I got mine. And then I did pull the pumpkins off of them. I just wanted 3 little pumpkins and then the pumpkin topiaries and then a lot of foliage. So I'm just pulling up, you can see in each of the little cups of the sugar mold, I have some Spanish moss and then some reindeer moss. And I did just stick some skewers in the bottom of these pumpkins so they would go in easily. I like to take this sugar mold and decorate it temporarily so that way I can change it out from season to season. If you've ever bought these and had candles in them and you're like, what do I do with this now that the candles are burnt out and all the wax is gone? This is a perfect thing to do with these. So I stuck each of those pumpkins in, and you can kind of see that the middle one is a little bit different than the ones on the sides. And then I am taking these picks and I'm kind of bending them so they'll fit down in, because who knows if I'll do this next year for fall or if I'll use these picks for something else. So I didn't want to trim too much or anything hanging off of them. And so you can kind of see how I loop that over, and I just tuck that down in. And this is pretty sturdy. There's quite a bit of the Spanish moss tucked in each of those little holes there. So that way there is some stability when I stick these in, so I don't need any glue or anything. Now this one I had to use my pliers to wrap that thing around because it had a very stiff wire on the end of it. And I'm just going to stick these cute little pumpkin topiaries. I love these. I have IKEA plants all over my house. If you guys know what I'm talking about, those little like lamb's ear IKEA plants. I'll buy these topiaries and just stick one in each of those. I just think it's such a fun way to add a little bit of fall into your house. I think those are so cute. So now you can easily just leave it like this and be done, but I like to add a little bit extra to things. You guys know this. So I have this little sign that I got at Hobby Lobby, and then I have this ticking ribbon. I think it might have come from JoAnns. I can't remember. It might have been Hobby Lobby actually. Anyway, I'm just putting this ribbon around, which of course both of these would be optional. You could do one without the other very easily. And what I do is I just measure the ribbon, and then I'll use the smallest amount of hot glue to glue it onto the back of the mold and then onto itself. So that way I can easily peel that off when the next season comes. I'm very excited to decorate this for Christmas, so you'll have to watch and see how I do that. And then I just glue a Jenga block onto the front of the ribbon because I want that sign to pop out a little bit, and I want to add as little glue to the sugar mold itself. And you can kind of see I do that, and then I just kind of fluff it up and just make sure everything is placed exactly where I want it to be. But look at how adorable this looks. Oh my gosh, I love this. Now you could add hot glue into the mold on this if this is something you were wanting to sell and make it more permanent, or add some styrofoam down in there. But I love the fact that I can change this out and do different seasons and things. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, and if you want me to keep showing you different seasons how I decorate this. With this DIY, I'm just taking this little cutting board from Dollar Tree and I'm going to turn it into a pumpkin. So I'm just painting it orange. I'm just using some pumpkin orange color chalk paint, and I'm just going to do front and back, all the sides, everything. Now, if you want to do a variation of a different color of a pumpkin or something, feel free to do that. But I really just kind of wanted to make this one orange. And then I'm just taking one of these paint stir sticks. I buy these in a package there's several of them for like $1 or $1.50 or something. And I just cut one down to about 4 inches, and I'm painting that green for the stem. Now, this stencil came from Hobby Lobby. I've actually been really impressed with their stencil section lately. They've kind of upped their game. They've gotten some really cute, fun stencils. But I thought this kind of had like a fun little French country feel to it, little fleur-de-lis type thing. So I'm just taping that on, and I'm just wanting this to go along the bottom of the pumpkin to kind of give it that little bit of a French country flair. When I stencil, I like to use painter's tape to hold that stencil in place, and then I just lightly tap up and down, and as you can see here, with just a small amount of paint on your brush. You don't want so much that when you stipple it down that it's going to like smudge paint underneath the stencil. So you want it to be a very light process, and if you have to go over it a couple of times, do that. And then once I'm done, I just peel it back, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. I thought this looked super cute. So I'm just kind of checking where I want the stem, and I'll just use some hot glue to fix that stem on there. And then I just kind of push that down and get that put into place, and it's starting to look like a pumpkin, I think. And now I'm going to put a little bit of embellishment on it because I love to do that. So I'm just gluing some Spanish moss to the top here, and I'll swing that all the way around to the back of that stem, and I'll glue it down there so it's all in place and it goes all the way around the stem. And then I just add a couple extra little things that I've got here for embellishment. These are little sprigs off of a boxwood pick that I bought from I didn't get it at Hobby Lobby. I got it at Walmart. Their boxwood picks are the best, and they're like $1.97, and you can do so many projects out of just one of them. So I'm just gluing those on. I'm just putting this one down because I wanted it to kind of go over the corner of the pumpkin there, and so I'll do that. Now I'm just taking some twine, and I wrap that around my fingers several times and tie it in the middle to make a cute little twine bow. I thought that was cute to have a thicker twine bow like this. And then I felt like it needed maybe even something a little extra. So I have this little white pitberry that I have. You can get this Dollar Tree, any craft store really. And I'm just going to wrap it around the stem and kind of twist it so it stays on there. And then using just like a paintbrush, I'm just going to wrap each side around that to kind of make the curve curlicue little vines of a pumpkin there. And I realized that I had done them kind of long, and so I just trimmed them off to what size I want them to be. And then with the little pieces that I ended up trimming off, I end up just gluing into the top there, so there's a couple of extra little pumpkin vines coming out all around. I just liked the contrast of the white pipberry on this, and I just thought it looked really cute kind of all over the stem there, and that it just kind of was the little touch that it needed. I think this turns out beautifully. I love this. You could do this with any sign that you have or plank wood or anything. Nobody would know that this was a cutting board. And I really think that it has such a French country feel to it, and I just love it. This is just one of those Dollar Tree pumpkins that has that word, it was metal on it that said thankful, and I'd taken that off to use on another project. So this is just what is left behind. So I just removed that little hanging tag off of the back and the little bow on the front. Dollar Tree has a ton of different styles of pumpkins like this though, and so I feel like they're a really great value for doing different crafts with. So definitely grab a couple just to have in your stash, because I find myself using them all the time. So I'm just giving this a couple coats of just some pumpkin colored chalk paint, and then I'm a fan of having the green stem on the orange pumpkins, so I'm also just going to take some of my little green chalk paint and color that stem so that way it has the contrast and the colors I like. Now, I did find this frame at Hobby Lobby in their clearance section. I love looking through their clearance section for different pictures that you maybe would not ordinarily hang in your house, but to use for backgrounds or bases. You can also use a canvas if you have, or even another Dollar Tree sign would work. I liked this one because I felt like the pumpkin covered up that design, and I'm not going to have to do any work to the background of it. And I do want some ridges on my pumpkin here. So this is just using some antiquing wax is all, and just a brush here that I'm just kind of going with the curvature of the pumpkin to kind of make those little ridges. And I just wanted a little definition in there so it's not just such a stark, plain, like flat pumpkin. Hopefully that you can see what I'm doing here. And then I do kind of dry brush over the whole pumpkin with the antiquing wax to kind of give it a little bit of an aged look. And then I do right here, I'm going over with some orange after that antique wax has dried to kind of tone it down a little bit so it's not quite so like in your face with the ridges, so it kind of tones it down a little bit. Now you can see how this pumpkin covers the design on my sign. I felt like that little chain kind of looks like the pumpkin's hanging there. I was fine with that. I actually quite enjoyed and liked how this looks. So again, if it's something that you would want to do something with the back of your painting or picture, whatever you end up using, definitely do that so it matches your decor and your taste. And I'm just using some tumbling tower blocks to kind of pop it out a little bit. I'm a fan of having a little bit of a three-dimensional look. Now this is just some raffia here that I have. You can pick this up at Dollar Tree or Walmart, any craft store. And I kind of split it apart so it was some little thin strands. And then I just used some hot glue to glue that on there. And then this is just a thicker piece of jute twine. And I'm just layering some different things to hang off of the pumpkin to add some texture and everything. I like the look of the buffalo check ribbon on there. I feel like bringing a little bit of black into it does kind of make it a little more relevant for October and Halloween. It's not so in your face Halloween. It's something that can be left out all through the fall season, but I do kind of like that. So that's why I'm adding a little bit of black on here. Now these are just some Dollar Tree flowers that I have, and I just cut them off in individual stems so I can glue them onto the pumpkin here. We're just going to decorate the top of this pumpkin with all different florals and bows and everything and kind of jazz it up a little bit here. So I'm just using some hot glue to glue each of those strands on. I'll tuck some of them behind the ribbon, some of them on top of the ribbon, because we're going to put a bigger bow on this. So it really doesn't matter too much right now what it looks like in that center. And then I've had those cute little, I'm not really even sure what the different flowers are called, you guys, but I just picked what looked good. I get asked a lot how I pick the picks that I use in my florals, and honestly, I just pick what looks good to me. So I like to look for different types of textures and different colors of leaves, and then I just kind of mix and match as I do my projects. So this is just a little bit of like ticking ribbon, I think is what this is called, from Hobby Lobby, and then this plaid here, and it's more of like a velvety plaid. I thought those textures looked really cute, and it brings a little bit of that black in, but I wanted a little bit more orange to show through, a little different tone of orange. So this ribbon is from Dollar Tree, and I just made a giant bow, and I just tied shoestring bows on these, and then I glue this one on the base, and I just stack these ribbons just by gluing one on top of the other here. Pretty simple. I think it turns out really cute. I love all of those different patterns and the textures together. And now I can kind of see that the bow's there where I want to add a little bit more of the leaves and different things like that. So I just tuck different things in. These little, I love the color that's on those leaves right there that are the kind of cream color and tan. And this is just some burlap, or not, it's not burlap, it's twine with wire in it. And I just wrap it around my paintbrush and glue that in for some little corkscrew look to the pumpkin, like the little pumpkin vines or tendrils. And then I have some different like pine cones. These are all just from Dollar Tree picks. Every single one of these, I took all of these off of. And then I'm gluing some Spanish moss to kind of cover up that area on top of the bow, where you can see where it's layered together. Kind of adds a little different texture and a little bit more softness there. And I do that on the bottom as well. And you guys, this is one of my most favorite fall projects I have ever made. I absolutely love this. I think it is beautiful. It is something that is totally customizable to your taste and the colors in your home. I would love to know what you guys think of this one. This is such a fun project to use the tumbling tower blocks for. So these are just the tower blocks from Dollar Tree that I have, and I'm going to make some little pumpkins. And it's easier if I will try and explain the best I can in words, but you can kind of watch what I'm doing and that will hopefully make the most sense to you. So I start with my front tumbling tower block and I glue 2 pieces behind it, and I'm just going to fan my way out, and so it kind of goes in steps out from that front piece. Now I'm just using hot glue. If you wanted to use like some wood glue as well, you could do that. I don't plan on these getting a whole lot of like use other than just sitting around, so I didn't feel like they needed anything stronger than hot glue, but that's up to you. So can you kind of see how that shape is there? That is one side of the pumpkin, and I will repeat this process and to do it on the back side. But this time we'll be working our way in. So I will glue my pieces going inwards, so that way it's just kind of the reverse. So I hope you can kind of see there. So I start to stagger them back because we're going to go to a point on that other side. So you can see this kind of coming together here. Now I've seen a lot of different ways to glue tumbling tower blocks to make pumpkins. This one, I actually just really liked the way that this staggered look here was. So that's why I chose to go it this way. So you could even go to Pinterest and look up some different ways to do these. So these have been around for a while and I just have never had the opportunity to make some. So I thought it would be kind of fun. So you can kind of see here. Now, what you'll do is I'm just putting a little bit of glue here, and I'll just kind of, if I need to pinch my blocks closed a little bit to make that fit perfectly, that's what I will do. But look at how cute that looks. Starting, doesn't really look like a pumpkin yet, but kind of starting to. So I decide I want 3 total of these pumpkins, and so I just repeat the process. Now you can stagger the tumbling tower blocks out a little bit further to kind of widen this, or bring them in to make a more narrow pumpkin. You can kind of do whatever you want to give any variation in size or look to each of your different pumpkins. But you can see I'm just repeating that same process here. This one I staggered them out a little bit further, so it is going to be a little bit wider, but I really like the fact that I have control a little bit over making them kind of different, because no 2 pumpkins are the same, and no 2 of your DIY pumpkins like this will be the same either. So here are 2 of them. They are super cute, and I end up making a 3rd one the same process. And so now for the fun part of trying to paint and embellish these however I want. So if you've watched me do any of my fall crafts, I have been using like the pumpkin color from Waverly, the moss color, and also just the plaster color. I love those 3 colors for the pumpkin variation. So you can paint these in whatever colors you would like to. And I'm just going to paint all of these. You just want to make sure you get into all of the little nooks and crannies and areas there, because there is a lot of different little corners on there. So I'll just go through and do those 3 colors on each of these pumpkins. This step is completely optional, but I really wanted these to look weathered and distressed and just really old and worn. So I just took some antique wax on the bottom of a stencil brush here, and I got kind of heavy with it because that's the look that I was going for. So it's just up to you. You can tailor this to your style, but I just dipped my brush in that antiquing wax and I barely wiped any off. So it's not really like a dry brushing, just you don't want it goopy on the end of your brush if that. Hopefully you can see how that looks here of how I'm doing that. And then as your brush kind of dries, you can kind of go over some of the edges to give them a little bit more definition. Now to do the stems, I just took some Spanish moss here and I stuck that down in. You could see with my finger, it creates a hole, and I painted some tumbling tower blocks. I painted 2 green and 1 brown, and I just used the antiquing wax on the brown one. And that's how I'm doing these stems. So you'll see I stick my finger in there. It creates like a hole, so it will be easy for me to stick the glue down. And then I can just slip that little other block down there for the little stem. And I just repeat the same process on this third one. You can definitely leave the Spanish moss as long as you want. I kind of gave it a little bit of a trim to help it kind of so you could see the stem more. But look at how cute these look. They would be perfect for a tiered tray or just really anywhere, a cute little desk ornament even. I just love how these turned out, and they're going to be so versatile. I love how this Dollar Tree fall DIY turns out. So I'm just taking a couple of these little block signs from Dollar Tree. They're different sizes. I thought the staggering size was really cute. Now I did spray that or rip the paper off first, and then I sprayed with the like residue that was left behind with just some water. And then I'm going in with a baby wipe and a little putty knife here just to scrape that off, so that way I can paint these the color that I want and not have any of that paper residue or glue or anything left behind. So now I'm just measuring out. I want to stagger the size of these pumpkins. So I'm just trying to eyeball how far down I want to do and to see what it looks like. I'm just doing not a full coat of paint because I do want this to look pretty distressed. So I'm just kind of doing like a messy coat on here, I guess, and just kind of making it look really farmhouse, really shabby, that kind of stuff. And so you can of course paint these whatever color matches your decor, or if you're like, I do not like that style of the farmhouse paint them solid, whatever you want to do. So now these little pumpkins from Dollar Tree have a lot of glitter on them, and since I am going to paint these to match my colors for fall, I scraped that glitter off of them. Now I did just kind of measure here. You can see how far down I want to cut that second pumpkin. And so I drew my straight line, and then I drew the corners on. I traced those from the other pumpkin so I could cut it down and have it match. So hopefully that makes sense. I just showed you, I just used my little hand miter saw there. I have a link to that down in my description box if you want to check that out on Amazon. I did pick mine up at Lowe's, so if you have like a close homes, I want to say Home Depot, but any type of home improvement store, there we go. Then you can check there. They're like 10, 15 bucks or something like that. I love using Waverly's pumpkin and moss for fall decor. I think it has that perfect farmhouse muted tone to it. So I give these just a couple of coats of each of those colors, and then I just sand around the edges. I really liked how it kind of brought out the color they originally were. It kind of was a good contrast, so I was pretty happy with that. And then I'm taking some just white chalk paint here and just doing a really light dry brush to kind of add a little bit of visual interest to them because they were kind of flat and plain looking. And then I did forget to mention, but I think you saw me gluing the stems back on, I did just paint those with some brown paint. Now you can do whatever you would like to do for your lettering on these signs. I just got these from Cricut's Design Space and just cut them out with my cutting machine. You could easily do some handwriting on them, print on tissue paper. I've done several tutorials on that. I've also done water slide decals, anything like that. There's so many different ways to get words onto things. So whatever method you like to use, go ahead and do that. But I just really like the saying Happy Harvest. I thought that was super cute. And then I do just use some wood glue and also some hot glue to get these all glued together. Now you did see me take a little bit of the dry brushing and go over the vinyl letters. That kind of gives it a faded look as well, so it looks like the letters were meant to go on the sign. So just keep that in mind if you're ever doing vinyl on a project you're distressing, to dry brush over the letters a little bit to help them look aged as well. And then I'm just embellishing this just with some ribbon that I had, some cute little black and white buffalo check ribbon I thought was really cute on there, and then just some raffia, and you can see I'm just kind of scrunching that up. I thought it was kind of fun. I also have this cute little pitberry, and I've used this in a couple of projects, and what I love to do with it is wrap it around like the end of your paintbrush or a pencil or something and give it kind of that corkscrew look. And then I just wrapped it around the stem on these, and I love it with the pumpkins because to me it just looks like little pumpkin vines growing. I just think they're super cute, and it's so fun to be able to take these pieces and embellish them however you want to kind of give them that cute little personal touch. I did the same thing on each of them so they matched really well. Then I just glue them together and glue them onto the cute little sign. I absolutely love how this turns out. To me, it looks so high end. It looks like something you would truly buy at a store or at a boutique or out of like a catalog or something. I just think it turned out so cute. It is so fun. It's perfect for fall, and it's something you definitely could leave up the whole season. This is such a simple DIY. I hope that you try this because it was so fun. Now, I did find this wire in the jewelry section at Walmart, but you could easily just use, zip ties, you could just use twine to tie these off with, however you wanted. I end up making 8 loops. I start out with 6, but realize I need more, just of some jute twine. So this is just twine that came from Dollar Tree. I wrap it around each of my hands 20 times. So you could do more or less depending on your style, but just so you know, I did 20 times that I wrapped around and then I snipped it off. And then I just kind of tied it off with that wire. I wrapped that around so that way it stayed in place. But again, you could just use a short piece of jute twine to tie these off in the middle, so you wouldn't have to buy an extra thing of wire or anything if you didn't have that on hand. Now, after you get all of your rings, now remember that I end up doing 8, but I started with 6. I'm just going to use some hot glue and glue each of these together in the center. So where you have tied these together, either with your wire or the twine, I'm just using a little bit of glue. If you need to use your silicone finger protectors, do that because you are working very close with your fingers and the hot glue. So just pay attention to that. But I just waited for each little section to dry before gluing on the next section. And I decided to glue 3 and then 3. So I was doing like one half of the pumpkin and then the other half of the pumpkin. And so you can kind of see how I did that here. Now, depending on how tightly or the size of your hands or your loops, however you did your loops here, 6 may be enough. But when I got them together, I just realized that I wanted to have it a little bit more full. At this point, I just glued them to a stick that I found in my yard. It looked like a really cute pumpkin stem. So I'm gluing those first 3 onto this one here. And then I just put some glue around and I will glue this other half onto the pumpkin. This is when I got them together. And you can see I reached my fingers through to kind of grip those together around that stem. But you can kind of see the side of my pumpkin there that it really did just need another loop in there. So again, I just wrapped it around 20 times. I tied it off either with my wire or your jute twine, and then I just kind of reached in and glued it in. Once I added that, you can kind of see I felt like it needed another one to kind of make it a little bit more even. So again, the same process. This would be something so fun to do with like kids or grandkids. You of course would want to just help them with the hot glue part, but I mean they could easily wrap the twine around and everything and make these cute little pumpkins that ends up being so darling. I absolutely just love how this turns out. So this last one I did with just tying the twine on there. So if you need to rewind that to see, but that does show you kind of how I tied the twine on instead of using the wire. So I glue that one in and I just fluff it up a little bit to kind of make sure that it looks as full as I want it. And then I just wanted to put some hot glue around here because I'm adding some Spanish moss. I've been loving using Spanish moss in my fall decor. I don't know if it's just that it gives it a special softness or if it looks like pumpkin vines or what it is, but I've really enjoyed it. And I do just trim it up because I don't like it to be too wild and out of control. And then I have this pick that's from Dollar Tree and I love these little silvery greenish blue leaves. So you can see I'm just putting some glue on the end of that and I'll glue that in just as a little bit of the pumpkin leaf there to kind of add a different color to it. I'm just really pleased with how it looks. And I felt like it needed a little something else. So I just take some raffia and I'm just making a little bow. So I just kind of loop it around several times and then just tie that off in the center. This just adds another little bit of texture to it. I felt like the bow just kind of sets it off there a little bit. And I really love how that looks on there. I just think this turns out absolutely adorable, especially for how simple it was to make. It would be so cute sitting on a coffee table, just a perfect decor. This would be perfect to leave out for Thanksgiving, even all season long. What do you guys think of this one? Are you guys on Instagram? If you are, I would love if you would come and find me. I am Farm Charm Chic over there. I'll leave a link down in my description box so you can easily find me. But come and see what I'm working on. I post there quite a bit. I like to show you things that I'm working on or when I have videos ready. It's just another place to stay in touch. So if you do come find me, remember to send me a DM and say hi because I do love meeting new friends. As I was searching for French country ideas, I saw a lot of terracotta pots that kind of had like a very aged look or like a plaster finish to them. So I thought I would try that with this pot that I have, and you can use any type of terracotta pot that you might have. I'm just putting some baking soda in this little dish, and I'm just adding some chalk paint to it. You probably could use like spackle really easy to do this same texture, maybe water it down a little bit because I felt like it was almost the same type of consistency, texture as I was mixing this. And mix it really good before you add more paint, because I've had seen a lot of people do this that say that you'll keep adding paint thinking it's dry and then you end up with it too liquidy. So just kind of mix it really good before you decide to add more paint, because I thought I was going to have to add so much more, and I ended up not. Now I'm just going to brush this on to the pot here. And this is what I decided to do first, was kind of brush it on like this. But as you'll see in a minute, I found another method that works a little bit better. But I mean, this works fine too, and you can do it as heavy or as light as you want. I end up taking a stencil brush from Dollar Tree, and I'll dip it in my baking soda mixture there, and then I will just kind of push up and down. And I'm doing it pretty heavily because I want that heavy texture to it. And then I just want some of the terracotta to show, and I could have left more. It just kind of is a matter of personal preference. This was the first time I tried this particular technique, and so like I said, I think I got a little heavy, but I do like how it turns out, and it was kind of fun to do too. So now I just have a couple of pumpkins. I used this pumpkin in a lot of my displays last year. And then I bought this one at Hobby Lobby. I think Dollar Tree has them too. It ended up being like $1. And then I'm just going to make a little topiary out of these. So I'm just taking some styrofoam here, and I'm just using my putty knife to cut off the edges. And then I will just kind of squish or push that styrofoam down into my little terracotta pot here. This particular pumpkin did come from Hobby Lobby. I have seen them there this year. Like I said, I used it in a few displays last year, and I thought it would be perfect for this, but I loved the greenery that it had. So if you're using one that you have on hand, or you're using one from Dollar Tree, you might want to add some greenery around the bottom, because that really does soften it. So I stick it in that styrofoam, and then I'm just using a wooden dowel, and I'm just using that to get the pumpkins through. Now this particular one I turned upside down to kind of push it through first, because I just wanted to have control of where the hole was going. And it has like that around the styrofoam of the pumpkin is like, I don't even know what it is, like a film or something. So I just wanted to puncture that with some control. So that's why I did it that way. So now I just want to go in between each of these layers of the pumpkin and add some embellishing. So along the bottom, I'm just using some Spanish moss, and I'm just sparingly putting this in. So I'll just kind of look where it seems a little bit bare. I'll add a little glue, and then I just kind of will push that moss in. And then I have these little picks of hydrangeas, and I thought this golden color looked so beautiful. I kind of love the muted tones that this ends up having. So you could totally go with what your personality is on this and do it as colorful as you want, as muted as you want. You wouldn't even have to use the flowers. You could just do greenery. I thought, like, if you like that look of like the feathers that you see in some of the fall arrangements, that would look really cute kind of between the layers. The possibilities are endless, and this is the fun part of creating, is getting to do what matches your taste and your style. So I'm starting this next layer, putting the Spanish moss all the way around, because I wanted that to kind of come out between the different layers. And then I take some boxwood. This is from Walmart, the boxwood pick, and it's $1.97 for a pick, and it's an amazing deal because you can do so many different projects with each one. It comes with a bunch on one pick. So I'll just pull off like 6 or 7 of the little teeny pieces of the pick, little sprigs, I guess we'll call them. And I just glue those around, and then intermittently just kind of put in some of those hydrangeas. And I'm just using hot glue between all of the different layers here. And then as I get around, I'll push that top layer of the pumpkin down. I can put a little extra glue there, but there was a lot of glue there to kind of hold it. So moving on to this last layer here, again, you can just see I put the Spanish moss on top. I'm just using these little silicone spatulas so I don't burn my fingers, because if you've worked with Spanish moss and hot glue before, you know it seeps through very easily. And I'll just place that top pumpkin there to kind of see how much I want to do or how it looks. And then you can see on this layer, I'm just gluing these little sprigs across like this, and just kind of doing, instead of doing a number of 4 around the pumpkin, I just do a number of 3. And I do the same thing with those hydrangeas. And then this one, I do put a little bit of glue there to hold that top pumpkin down, and then I just push that down and hold it. Now I did go back and add some boxwood to the bottom layer so it looked cohesive on all of the different layers, and then just kind of spun it around to make sure that everything looked how I wanted it. If I needed to trim any of the Spanish moss or anything like that. But I'm loving this. I think this turns out absolutely beautiful. Some of the ones I saw online that were close to this size were upwards of $80, and some of this was just from pumpkins I had on hand. But I just think this is beautiful, and I love how this turns out. I made a fatal error and did not film this before of this muffin tin, but it did come from Dollar Tree, and you guys have all seen muffin tins before. So I just took it into my garage and I used this paint. It was it's like a satin amber, and I really did like it. It turned out really good. It was a little bit more dull than a traditional pumpkin, which I liked. It's not so bright in your face orange. And after it dried, it took about 3 coats to get the coverage I wanted. I'm just taking just a little, this is one of the brushes from Dollar Tree, the stencil brushes, and I am just taking some white chalk paint that I watered down, and I am just dipping it in that, and I brush the excess off so I don't get huge drops, and then I'm just like flicking it with my finger to kind of give it that speckled look. I think that's kind of a fun, cute look. Now, of course, this is not food safe in any way, so don't think that it is, and I'll show you kind of how it won't get mixed up with your food safe ones. But again, I'm just going over the front and the back here just to kind of give it that coverage that I want. So I'm taking some ribbon and I am going to put ribbon through the little hole on the side, and I just bend my ribbon in half and then stick it from the front of the pan. You can kind of see, it's easier to see than explain this, down. So it makes a loop in the back, and then I will just feed that ribbon through the loop. I should have left it a little bit longer. It would have been easier, and then trimmed it down. But however you want to do that. But this way, in case you happen to have an orange pan that looks similar to this and you don't want to get mixed up with your food safe items or whatever, I mean, nobody's going to come and think, oh, there's ribbon on this, I can put it in the oven. So hopefully that helps. But I just thought it looked cute on here also. This would be really cute to sit out with some like little Halloween candy that's wrapped in it, like, some little Kit Kats or Reese's or something like that. I thought would be super cute kind of in this for like a little tray display. But it's just kind of fun. I have a couple of these that I use for different seasons to kind of in my China hutch just have as a little, it's a kitchen item, and it's just kind of fun to decorate it and have it look, kind of festive for the season. And then I'm just using my lighter tool here just to kind of sear the edge of those ribbons so that way they don't fray at all. And then you can see those little pumpkins sit really cute in it. I just think this turns out really cute. It's something that's kind of fun, and it just kind of adds that like festive flair to your kitchen for the holiday. And you can do this with any color of paint for any season. Have you seen these little votives at Dollar Tree? This particular one is a matte white, but it was a little bit dirty on the side. So I'm just going to freshen it up with a white color of paint here and go all over it. Now you could do this with any votive from Dollar Tree and paint it whatever color, orange, white, green, whatever color you were wanting to do. Now I'm just taking that little spot where your votive would go, and as you saw, I'm just filling it with some hot glue, and I'm going to put some Spanish moss all around just to kind of soften the top of that pumpkin I'm making it a pumpkin. It's a votive, but I'm making it a pumpkin, but I'm just kind of masking where that votive would go. Now I have this little stem from another pumpkin that I used for a different project that I didn't need the stem for. But you could easily use just like a stick from your yard would work totally fine. And I'm just using some hot glue to glue that. And that is it for this particular little pumpkin. And this is a hefty little pumpkin. Now I wanted a second little pumpkin to go along with this, so I'm taking this Dollar Tree pumpkin and I'm just removing the florals off of it. And I found this French newspaper printable online, and I'll link that below. And then I have this little kit that kind of ages things here, and I just found it at JoAnns, but I've seen them at Hobby Lobby. It's not necessarily necessary to do this, but I wanted to age this, and I didn't have any like cream paper to print this newspaper on. I just printed this off just on my regular inkjet printer, and then I'm just going in with this little dabbing tool, as you can see here, and just dabbing it all over, and it's just a different, you can see how aged they all end up looking. It took me maybe 3 or 4 minutes per page to do, so it does take a little bit of time, but I was so pleased with how it turned out. So I want to decoupage this to the pumpkin, and I'm going for a French country flair, kind of French country farmhouse look. And so that's why I thought the French newspaper would be really cute. And I'm going to decoupage this to the pumpkin. So I'm just ripping it down into just there's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just ripping wherever it feels good, whatever size, and I just do that I end up only using 2 of the pages, and then I still don't use all of the pieces there. But then I'm just gonna do a typical decoupage process. This is just using Mod Podge, and it can be glossy, it can be matte, it can be satin, it can be whatever finish of Mod Podge. Any will work just fine. And as you can see, I just put the Mod Podge on the pumpkin, and then I just take the strips of paper, place them on, and then I'll go over the top of the strip of paper with some more Mod Podge to make sure that it is completely sealed and down. Now where the pumpkin has grooves, I take my brush and I'll just kind of dab down in those grooves as I'm putting the Mod Podge on the top and those papers on. So that way it keeps that shape of the pumpkin. And so just kind of do that if you're doing on a texture, you want those ridges to really show up. And I don't know if I show me doing that on here, but I'm just letting you know that I do that so that way those ridges show and it doesn't have any air pockets there. So you just kind of will tap down on those ridges. And this is such a fun and easy project. Honestly, my husband walked in while I was doing this and thought it was so silly. Like he was so confused at what I was doing. But when I showed him how it ended up turning out, he was like, wow, that's actually really cool. So it was a kind of a fun process. And this is just, again, no rhyme or reason to this. You're just covering up that blank space of the pumpkin with your paper. And you could do this with any type. It wouldn't have to be like this particular French newspaper. You could use tissue paper. You could print another design out. If you have like some wrapping paper or something, you want to use fabric. And then I'm just showing you could use just a stem off of another pumpkin, but I found this perfect little stick down on our farm. And so I grabbed it and I just stuck it all the way down through the styrofoam. And then I wanted to add a little curlicue here with this little pipberry. So I'm just wrapping this around. And then to get the curlicue on that, I just wrap it several times around a paintbrush or pencil or something. And that gives it that cute little curly look. And then just trim it down to size. I'm loving the look of the Spanish moss for this French country farmhouse look that I'm going for. And in all of the pictures that I looked up of different things, they all used this, or most of them used like the Spanish moss to kind of soften it. So I'm just gluing that around the top of the pumpkin, but underneath where I put that little pipberry. And I think this turns out so cute. I think these both together are adorable. They would look perfect on a tiered tray or to set in a little vignette like this. You could do one without the other very easily, but I just think these turn out adorable. This is a bonus DIY that I'm adding into this video here. It's done solely with Chalk Couture products, which I'll explain a little bit about here in a minute. But I'm just showing you this little kit there is this darling little truck shape here, and then there's these transfers. And so you can do this truck double-sided. There's transfers to do both sides. So on this particular side, I want it to kind of feel fall-like. And so I'm going to do it a two-tone color in like a gray and a turquoise. And then when I get ready to do my Christmas DIYs, I can flip it over and make it kind of a red truck, because you guys know how much I love red trucks with Christmas decor. And so I'm really excited to get to do that. I feel like Chalk Couture is sometimes like Cricut. You either like love it or you hate it, or people, I don't know, it's kind of a trigger for some people to kind of leave some nasty comments in the comments. But honestly, I just want you to know that I am a fan of anything that gets somebody to create. So I would never ever shame anybody for wanting to create something. And I love that there's products for all different levels, whether you're beginner or advanced, like, you know, speaking of power tools to just hand tools versus using something easy like this or a Cricut, or being able to handle it or something, or stenciling, and it fits all budget types too. So just because it's not something that necessarily is your cup of tea doesn't mean that there's not somebody out there who wants to try it. The thing I do love about Chalk Couture is it's easy. Honestly, guys, I bought this because I just wanted to make it for my house, because I absolutely loved it and thought, well, I'll just record myself doing it and just kind of show you what it's about if you want to give it a try, or just show you so you know what's out there, because so many people I've talked to have never even heard of this before. So it kind of works like the concept of a stencil, but it's screen printing is the closest thing that I can say, like when they like screen print like t-shirts or things. And so you have the paste that you use, which is much thicker than like a chalk paint. It's very comparable, like one of these little pots of the paste is very comparable to like the large size of the Waverly chalk paint at Walmart. And it lasts for a very long time. Like you do not use a lot of it. So it is a little bit of an investment for the size that it is, but it lasts a very long time. So very comparable to like the larger sizes of the paint. And then you can see you have these little scraping tools, and the transfer is very sticky on the back. And so you can see when you peel that back, I have those different colors that I did. I mean, look at how perfect that comes out. I mean, there is such a sense of satisfaction when you make something like this that you pull it back and go, oh my gosh, like it worked. It turns out so cute. I love that turquoise color on there. And then you just rinse your transfers out with warm water, and then you're able to use them like up to 10 times. Like, they're amazing. So the kit also came with this little block here. And so I'm just going to do the Welcome Autumn here in just kind of like an orange color. I thought this was so cute. If you do have any questions about Chalk Couture, definitely leave me a comment or DM me on Instagram. I'll get you whatever information I can. I'm still fairly new to the world of doing this and trying this out, but there is a link down in my description box if you want to check it out for yourself. But it's just another way to be crafty and just kind of do things and not have to have like a lot of freehand talent. I guess that's my big thing. So now this little piece right here that came with it, it has pumpkins on one side. And what is so fun about this DIY is I can flip it over, and it also came with a watermelon transfer, and it also came with another little saying that I could do for summertime. And then there's a Christmas one and a Valentine's one, and it's so cute. Like, look at those cute little pumpkins. And then so you wait for it to completely dry, and then I put the second piece over the transfer, and I'm doing a contrasting orange color, and so that way it'll make all the little detail and elements show up there. You can see when I peel this back here, I don't know, I think it turns out really cute, and I love that you can flip it over and use it for different seasons. I just think this truck looks so cute, like it's headed to the market, the farmer's market, with its freshly picked pumpkins to go sell. I think this is so cute. I normally do like a little bit of Chalk Couture here and there in my DIYs. I don't like to do like a whole bunch of DIYs with it because I do like to kind of keep the variety, but I would love to know what you guys thought of this one. I think it turned out so cute, and for a little bonus DIY in the video, I thought it couldn't hurt, and I'm so excited to use this in my fall decor. I'll have to show you on Instagram where I end up putting it in my house. I'm taking this darling little sign. It came from Walmart. It was part of their summer clearance. I think I paid $1.50 for it, and I'm just going to remove this little tag from the back. Now, this sign is darling the way that it is. You can do this with any sign that you get from Dollar Tree or that you may already have. I did buy one for me to have in my regular decor, but I also bought a couple so I could make some over. So I'm just using my heat tool to help remove the sticker off the back and remove those strawberries. I can save those for another project because they came off pretty well. And then I'm just going to give this a really good coat all over, sides and front, of the white chalk paint that I like to use. This is Waverly's plaster color. And now I'm just going to do some decoupage. This is just a napkin that I thought was really cute, and I'm just separating the layers just very carefully, and I'm going to cut out one of these sides here so I can put this on my sign. Since learning this technique with using decoupage and napkins, guys, I check the napkin section at every store that I go to. I love it. Now you're just going to use Mod Podge. Just put a very thin coat of Mod Podge down, and then you can kind of see that I haven't pushed it down yet. I can kind of move it around. Once I get it placed, then I just kind of work from the center out. You can see I can kind of lift it up a little bit. If it starts to tear, don't lift it up anymore. Just place it back down. But I have a little bit of working time here while that Mod Podge is still kind of wet. And after I rub all of the little creases out and everything, I get my brayer. Now, sometimes if your napkin is really wet or something, the brayer may rip it. So just be aware of that. Now, to get that clean edge, I'm just taking an emery board here, and I'm just in a downward motion. Now, this is sped up. I do go quite slow because I don't want to chip the paint or anything. And you're just going to peel off that edge, and so it's going to make it look nice and crisp. And then you just do a thin coat of Mod Podge over the top to get that sealed. Now, I thought it would be fun to kind of put a little bit of a dry brush of paint on here. So I'm just dipping my paint in my brush in my paint, and then I dip it on just like a paper towel or a baby wipe. Just kind of get the excess off and then go over the top. Now on this side, I thought it would be fun to have a little bit of a decorative side here. So I'm using my Elmer's school glue. You guys know that I love this stuff. So I just put a very generous coat of that on, and then I'm just going to put some of this cute buffalo check ribbon around the edge. I think this is just a really cute combination, and this just will add a little bit extra detail to it. One of the reasons that I love this Elmer's school glue is the fact that it goes on purple like this. It does dry clear, but this way you can kind of see how much you're getting without actually having to like have the light shine on it just right. You can see that I'll push that ribbon down really securely. I'll even take my wet baby wipe and go over the top of it to kind of add a little bit of moisture to it, and that helps it stick a little bit better. Now this is just showing you how I finish this off on the end here. So I just put this glue down, and I just will have my ribbon overlap just slightly, and I did this on the bottom so that way you would never see the seam. So once you do get your first ribbon glued down, you'll put a little bit of glue on the ribbon and then on the sign itself, and then you just kind of overlap that ribbon and trim it just with scissors, and that is it. It stands up just fine. And I got some of the ribbon and I made a cute little bow. I thought it would be fun to have that on the top, and I just made a couple of loops and just wrapped a little wire around the middle, and then I glued just another little piece of ribbon to cover that wire up, and thought that would be really cute to glue on the top here. This would be completely optional. It depends on what your taste and your style is. But I think this turns out so cute. I love it. I love those colors together, and I love the dry brushing, how it turned out on the napkin. It makes it look like a faded sign. I think this is really cute. You can use any riser for this DIY. This is one that I made in a prior video, and I'll link that down in my description box if you want to see how I did that. But I'm just taking a wreath here. This is just one that I use in my everyday decor. And then I have this little pumpkin that I have. This one came from the craft store, Hobby Lobby, I believe there, but you could just use one that you had on hand. You could even use a real pumpkin, would look so cute in this. And then I have this little garland right here that I've had kind of in my stash. I know they sell different types of wreaths or things like this at Dollar Tree also, or just your craft store, and I just kind of weave them together so that way I get the orange and the green there. I thought that was really cute, and I felt like I wanted to bring a little bit more fall into this, so I take just a pick from Dollar Tree, and I'm just using my little shears here to cut off each of the leaves because I'm going to individually place them around this pumpkin. Now I'm just weaving that little stem coming off of those leaves in between the different layers of the wreaths there. So it is really secure, so you don't need to use any hot glue unless you're maybe going to sell this or give it to someone or something. This is just something that you can kind of change out as the seasons come and go, something kind of fun just to throw together. You probably have a lot of pieces like this already in your decor that you could probably do something very similar, whether it's different colors of leaves or different florals, or you just wanted to use a couple of wreaths with the pumpkin. Make it simple, make it easy. I just wanted to show you just kind of a fun little decorating hack here. So I have this other color of leaves here that I thought brought that really rich red tone in, and I really liked that color contrasting with that gold on the other leaves. So I just kind of intermittently place these in between each of the gold leaves. Now, one quick little hack I just want to share with you is sometimes when you get these Dollar Tree florals, you'll get home and realize that they're very wrinkled. And even not just Dollar Tree, but Walmart or Hobby Lobby and Michael's. So you just get them home and you're going, ooh, these are very wrinkled and almost unusable. If you just blast them for a couple of seconds, just quickly with your heat tool there, it helps to flatten them out just perfectly, almost as if they had been ironed. Just make sure you don't leave the heat tool too long because it can melt that fabric that the leaves are made out of. So just a couple of quick seconds and it flattens them right out and makes them so easy to use. And then here I'm just sticking this last one in. You can kind of see that it takes me a second, like they're woven in there pretty tightly with all of the wires from the wreaths and everything. But once this is together, look at how beautiful this is. It's something that's so simple, so easy to do. Again, you probably have a lot of these things in your stash already that you could throw this together, and what a statement this would make as a centerpiece on a table or on a console table somewhere or something. I just think this ended up so beautiful. I love that Dollar Tree is starting to carry these cutting board signs. I love making them over. They are cute the way they are, but it is always fun to kind of make them match your decor and customize them a little bit. So I'm just flipping this one over and I'm just using my heat gun, and I'm just using this to heat up that sticker on the back because I'm going to make the back the front. I'm just going to cover it in my base color of paint. I'm choosing just to do plaster from Waverly's chalk paint, and I just give it 2 or 3 coats to make sure that it is covered how I would like it. And I want to put some orange stripes on the bottom of this. I thought that would be really cute for fall. These will all take you from fall right into Thanksgiving, so you can leave them up all through the season. And I'm just taking some pumpkin color chalk paint, and I am just using my little stencil tool here. This is just one of those little packages you get at the Dollar Tree, these little foam brushes here, the circular size, and I'm just pouncing up and down with a little bit of paint on there and just making sure that I don't overdo it with the paint and do a couple of coats. And you can see that there is no bleed through at all. Once that's dry, I'll stick on another piece of tape just a little bit lower, and then I'm just making a little ticking stripe here. I thought it would be cute to kind of have two littler stripes below that main stripe. So I just kind of eyeball the size. If you're someone who likes to measure and be perfect and exact, go ahead and measure. I just kind of eyeballed it. I figured that it's going to be sitting up in my china hutch or in my cupboard. It'll probably have some things in front of it. So if they weren't quite even, it was okay, but I think for eyeballing it, it ends up pretty good. I found these darling little cookie cutters at Dollar Tree. I don't make cookies a whole lot, so I bought these with the pure intent to decorate with them, so I'm going to use them on this cutting board here. But I realized I need to put some craft paper on the back, which was the front of the sign. This has some glitter on it. You can try and sand it off and everything if you want. I found that it's easier. I just use Elmer's school glue, which you guys, if you've watched me before, know that I'm obsessed with that stuff. I use it all the time. And then I just do some hot glue around the edge, and I'll take my brayer and just kind of go over while that glue is still pliable. That helps the sign stick all over, and it's not going to come off or curl up or anything. And then I just am taking my little emery board here and I go around the edges. This is sped up. It is a slow motion that I do, but you just want to sand away from the back of the cutting board. That's going to give you a nice crisp line. Once I get that sanded away, then I'll kind of go over the side of it to make sure that all of that comes off. So now I'm just taking my cookie cutters here and I'm just tying some twine to them so I can dangle them from the cutting board. You can see that I added some jute twine at the top there. Don't worry, I end up removing that because of how I want to stick these on. I'm realizing now that there's not really a way for me to stick the twine from these tied together, and I just stagger them, as you can see here. But there's not really a way for me to slide that up through. I tied it too tight, and so I just removed that from the back of it, and then I'm just going to decide where I want those to hang from, and I'm going to tie off that twine there. And then I'm just going to hot glue this on the sign. You'll see exactly how I do that here. Just trim the top of that little twine off, and then I can go back and wrap the jute twine around the top of my cutting board here on the handle. And you can use ribbon, you can use twine, you can use nautical rope, whatever you would like. And I just tie that off in the back, and then I just cut it fairly close. If you want to add a little bit of hot glue to make sure it's not going to come undone, that's fine. And that just allows these cookie cutters to kind of hang down here as a little decoration on this. I thought those were really cute. I felt like it needed a little something extra, so I'm going to make a scrap bow. So I'm just taking various ribbons from the Dollar Tree's fall line. Now that gingham check ribbon, I do believe I got at Hobby Lobby. I have not been lucky enough to find the black and white that they have at Dollar Tree, so definitely keep your eye out for that. I've gotten like yellow and white and red and white, but I've never gotten the black and white. And then I also add just a little strand of pitberry on here, so that way I can kind of twirl it up like some pumpkin vines once I get that on. So I kind of cut it down to size. I'm just cutting all of the ribbons just a little bit at an angle. You can dovetail them. However you want to do a ribbon on this is great. And then for the center of it, I had just tied it off with twine. I'm just taking that orange gingham there, and I am just taking it and putting it over the edge and gluing it in the back. So that just kind of makes it have a nice little center there. And then I just use hot glue to glue that on the top there, and you can see I missed a couple strands. So I just go back in and kind of cut those up. Apparently I forgot to show you where I just use a pencil and I just twirl that pitberry around it, so that way it came up with a little curly Q on those. And then I'm just tying the little handle on the top. Now you could spray some water on this. It will help it lie a little bit more flat because sometimes your twine gets kind of rolled up in the roll there. But look at how cute this looks. Of course, it's not food safe. It's just a sign from Dollar Tree that we made into our own custom sign. It's going to be darling to kind of bring that fall feel into your kitchen. I have this wreath form that I got from the floral section at Hobby Lobby. It was on clearance, but you could easily use like one of these that you found at Dollar Tree or any other wreath base that you have. It will take like the same principle. So just use what you have or what you can find, because I'm not sure that you'll be able to find this exact one. And I'm just going to show you a couple of different ways. So I trimmed all of these picks from Dollar Tree, and you can see that I'm just using, they've got the wire stem on them, and I'm just wrapping it around the base of my wreath form here. So you can do that, or you can use hot glue, or you can do a combination of both, whatever works for what type of wreath form you're using. I just wanted to show you that you can easily pull those through on some wreath forms and then wrap those around if you're not a fan of using a lot of hot glue or anything on wreaths. So I'm doing a combination of the two. I'll wrap some, and then I'm showing you here that I just pull the leaves off of that wire stem, and then I will just hold them down in to glue those. and go around the wreath. So I'm just using different colors of the autumn leaves here, and I'll use a couple of different styles too as the wreath goes on to kind of make this a little bit fuller. And you can kind of see I have to add a little bit of glue down in there sometimes. And then you'll even see that I will drop some glue down on some of the leaves here. One of them that I go to glue on, you'll see me do a big gob, and I'll kind of show you how I take care of that. But you just work your way around the wreath, and you'll just put wherever it looks like it needs some filling in, if that makes sense. You just want to keep checking it, hold it up and look at it and make sure that it looks even and that it's not like way bushy on one side and not on the other. Just kind of keep it even. I think this is where you see me drop the glue on the one leaf down there. And so all I do to take care of that is I try to wipe it off with my finger, and that doesn't work very well. So I just stick it behind the leaf in front of it and push it down, and that's going to hold that leaf right there, and you're never going to know. But again, you can just kind of see it's not rocket science, it's crafting. You just kind of go around, and wherever looks good, it is just hot glue. So if you have to pull it off because it doesn't look right or something, or add more to it, you can totally do that. Now, Dollar Tree has these little, I think it's just wheat is all this is, or millet or something. I'm not really sure what they call it, but it looks like wheat to me. So I thought it would be kind of fun to put that on the bottom of the wreath. Now you could do, I'm doing this where the base of my wreath has a kind of an arrangement at the bottom with a bow and some different florals here. But you could put this all around the wreath if you wanted to, but I'm just going to kind of move forward with how I'm doing this here. And so if you're doing it this way, you just want to make sure that you're kind of keeping it even. So it's symmetrical on both sides. And so whatever I do to the one side, I'll do to the other. So if I add 3 wheat on one side, for instance, I add 3 wheat on the other, kind of in the same spot, so it looks pretty symmetrical. You can do an asymmetrical look too if that's your thing, but for this one I'm just kind of going pretty symmetrical. And so I just have all of these different types of florals that I've picked up. When Dollar Tree comes out with their florals for this season, I'll just go buy like 2 or 3 of each kind of floral, or ones that look good to me. I try to get, like I said, different textures. You can see the different, like the wheat and the berries, the different leaves, things like that. So I have a kind of an arrangement, or kind of like a good selection. So I'm going to make a bow to put on here, and I'm not the best bow maker. I'm working really hard on my bows, and so I'm just showing you how I'm doing this one, but I just loop a couple of ribbons there together, you can kind of see, and then I'll pinch them in the middle and put a zip tie. And then I also took just a piece to have as the tails to put in there with the zip tie. And I'm doing this 3 times with 3 different colors of ribbon because I kind of wanted the different contrast of the patterns. I love mixing patterns and everything together. So I'm just making each one a little bit smaller than the prior bow. You can see I just measure out 2 lengths of ribbon. I just fold them over on each other and then pinch them in the middle. And these little clasps, clamps, or whatever you want to call them, that you get at Dollar Tree are perfect for doing this, to kind of hold them so you can work, or grab your zip tie, or grab another piece of fabric or ribbon, excuse me. And I just put, you can see how I just put that tail in the bottom of that one. I just cut another piece of ribbon and just pinched in there with those. And then I'll just grab a zip tie and put around it. And then I just stack these one on top of the other and zip tie them all together. And then I just kind of trim my tails as I want. So you can cut them in a diagonal, dovetail, whatever works for you. And then I feed a zip tie through my wreath, and then you just want to make sure that it's going to fit around everything. So I fed it through like one of the little pieces of wood on my wreath here. And then you're going to kind of fluff it up before you tie it tight or cinch it tight, just to make sure it's exactly where you want it. And then you just, and here you can kind of see I'm doing a little bit of fluffing, and then I will zip tie that completely tight. Now I wanted to cover up that zip tie, so I'm just using some of these little berries that were left from one of the picks, and I'm just putting that over the little zip tie. You could do a button, you could do Spanish moss, whatever works, whatever you've got. A sunflower would be really cute. This is just what I had close by, and I felt like it mixed in really well where I had those other berries in the wreath. But all in all, I think this turns out absolutely beautiful. I mean, for Dollar Tree florals, something like this at Hobby Lobby would go for way more than what you paid for the bunch of Dollar Tree florals that you put on this. And it is something that will last me from year to year, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. What do you guys think of this? I picked this up at Vintage Market Days. It's actually the metal part of the front of an old-fashioned fan, and you can kind of see the paint's chipping and everything. So I did lightly go around to clean this off, but I got this to kind of have in my everyday decor. But as I was looking at it, it looked like it would make the perfect cute little pumpkin. I like doing pumpkins out of non-traditional things, as you guys have seen. So I'm just taking this as part of a plunger handle from Dollar Tree, and I just stained it with antique wax to be the stem. You could paint it green if you wanted to. I just kind of liked the brown on there, and I'm just going to hot glue this. So technically I could take this handle off, because with the hot glue I would be able to peel that off the back when the season was over, and I could then use it just as my everyday decor, kind of just as like an extra little piece. So I took some of this pitberry and I did wrap it around a pencil to get that little corkscrew shape for the pumpkin vine, and now I'm just going to tie some raffia around the stem. I just thought this would add a really cute texture to it, and just kind of, I want to jazz it up a little bit. So I am just tying this into a knot rather than a bow. I thought the knot would be really cute. And for a minute, I leave this raffia really long because I'm not sure how long I want to keep it. So don't worry, I'm not going to leave it this long. I just didn't exactly know where I wanted to put it once I got everything on there. So I decided to leave it long while I added everything else. So I'm just taking this little pitberry. It's just on a wire, and you can get this at Dollar Tree. You can get it at any craft store, really. Walmart has it. And I'm just going to wrap it around the stem, and then just kind of, you can see, wrap it over itself so that way it's affixed to there. Now, none of this is like a permanent thing. I do end up gluing some leaves on here, but I can easily peel those off. And like I said, I can use this for everyday decor if I want as well. So now I'm just tying a little bit of the buffalo check. I love that black and white with the orange. It really is fall, can go into Halloween or Thanksgiving time. I just feel like that color combination is just really good for this time of year. So these are just a couple of leaves off of some of the Dollar Tree leaf picks that I got, and I'm just going to glue those on. I like the contrast of both colors on this. If you don't happen to have like one of these grates like this, or you don't happen to find one or anything, I was trying to think of some alternatives that you could use. I mean, you can do really pumpkins out of anything, but even at like the hardware store, if you go down like the ceiling aisle where the ceiling tiles are, they have like those round ceiling, I'm not even sure what they're called, but they kind of crown like a nice light or something, would actually be kind of fun to use. They might have some different vent shapes that would be fun to use as well. So I cut that raffia off. I even cut it just a little bit more because I feel like it's a little long there. And then I just pull my little tails of that ribbon down and just kind of fluff it up and play with it until it looks just how I want it. I thought this is turning out so cute. Something kind of non-traditional, and you guys know that I like to kind of do that with my things and just work with what you have. So start looking at the shapes around your house, seeing what you can turn them into, because I bet you've even just got a few things laying around your house that you could use. So I like to kind of crinkle up that raffia. I kind of like the really shaggy look to it, if that makes sense there. And then I just trim a couple long pieces there, play with it till I get it just right. And I love how this turns out. I think this is going to be so fun in my decor. I would love to know your thoughts on this piece. You can easily recreate this project with any shape, size, or style of cutting board that you may have. This is just a little one that I got from the spring section at Hobby Lobby. Their spring stuff is 75% off right now if your store is lucky enough to have some left over. So I picked up a couple of these little round cutting boards to use for various things, and I'm just going to paint the round or the base portion of this orange. I think in like a normal size, like one from the Dollar Tree, like the square size or rectangle sized cutting board, this would be so cute on as well. And then I'm just using some moss paint as the stem of my pumpkin here. So I'm just painting the handle of the little cutting board or charcuterie board, whichever you want to call it. And then I do kind of go on the edge to make sure that that handle, like the green for the stem, is straight all the way around, so it looks continuous all the way around. Now, I want you to know that I'm going to use some chalk couture transfers on here, but you could easily leave this plain. You could do a water slide decal. You could glue something else to embellish it. This is open to your interpretation, how you want to embellish this. I just had this cute little saying from Chalk Couture, and I can leave a link down in my description box if you want to know a little bit more about Chalk Couture, because it is a lot of fun and it's kind of like screen printing. And I'm just putting on the white chalk paste here and scraping that on, and then you'll peel back this transfer and you'll be able to see all of the words and the cute little fall saying that I have here. I'm curious to know, if you were to create this, what saying or what would you embellish yours with? So let me know down in the comments. This just says pumpkin kisses and harvest wishes, and I thought that was so cute. And then of course I just wanted to add a little bit of twine to it to kind of give it that little farmhouse touch, and also to give it the little like hanging handle back on the top. So I just threaded a looped part of the twine through, and you can see how I did that, how I looped that through and tie that off. And then I take just some little twine, just regular jute twine, and I make a cute little bow. I just tie it ahead of time rather than tie it around the cutting board. And then I go ahead and just glue that on with some hot glue. Now this would be a perfect project if you did want to paint the other side a different color, or maybe paint a cute little jack-o'-lantern face. You could flip it around, make it dual purpose or something like that. This little size is perfect for a tiered tray, but think how cute a larger size would be leaned up against your counter or your backsplash in your kitchen. It would be so cute. I love how this turns out. What do you guys think of this one? I got this little miniature dough bowl from Vintage Market Days, but I have seen them on Amazon. I'll try to leave a link below. But I like my sugar mold that I do, you guys have seen in other videos. I kind of like to change things out with my dough bowls to kind of make different things for different seasons. So I'm just going to make a little floral arrangement, almost like a little mini centerpiece with this. So I'm just taking some floral foam. You can just use regular styrofoam too, and I'm just gluing it together so it fits in. Now I'm not going to glue this in super well to my dough bowl because I want to be able to take it out and reuse it for different seasons. So that's why I end up taking the styrofoam out and kind of doing everything. I just have it placed in there right now so I can kind of get an idea of how big I want this to be. Now, if you guys haven't seen me do this hack before, if you ever get Dollar Tree or well, any type of florals that the leaves maybe are not quite so nice or kind of wrinkled or whatever, you can use a heat gun and kind of blast them. You want to do it as a quick blast though, because you don't want to start to melt the leaf, but it will make them go flat. So I just did that to all my leaves so they had a nice crisp look to them. And now I'm just going to go around the edge and get the base of my arrangement here. Now I am not a florist at all. I just do what looks good or feels good to me. So if there's something that you've done floral arranging before and you're like, ugh, that's not how you would do that, it's probably not, but I just do what works for me. So just kind of note that. So I'm just using a bunch of different leaves that I cut off from Dollar Tree picks, and I'm just doing, again, what looks good, the different colors, kind of making it even so not all one color's clumped in one area. And now I'm just on the top of this to cover up that floral foam. I just put some hot glue down and then put some Spanish moss all over it. Now these cute little pumpkins came from Dollar Tree, and they were the ones that had like the little metal clasp on the bottom. You can kind of see in one of these, you'll see me removing that off of there. And I'm just taking some skewers. You could glue this down, but I like to reuse a lot of things. Once I take this apart, I probably won't leave it for next year. I'll do something different. So I'll be able to use these in a different project if I don't ruin them with hot glue. So keep that in mind, but you are welcome to glue your items in also. Now I have some other cute little florals that I thought would match really well, and I just kind of stick those in anywhere that there was some like empty space or anything like that. And I love, love, love these things hanging over the edges here, these little berries. I'm not even sure what these are, but I thought they were so cute, and it brings that little touch of like a bluish color in. And then I'm just sticking some pine cones, and I thought it needed a little bit of a greener leaf in there, so I tucked those in. I thought it looked good. Again, you're just gonna do what looks good to you. So now I'm just making sure that it fits in my dough bowl. And I will take some hot glue and just put a couple of little dots on the bottom here just to hold it in place, so if it gets bumped or something, it's not going to come like falling out or anything like that. And in between some of those pumpkins where I didn't really have any florals or anything, I just tucked with a skewer some of the Spanish moss. And then also around the edge of the bowl, you can kind of like, if you look at it at eye level, you'll be able to see that styrofoam a little bit. So I just tuck some of the Spanish moss all the way around that also. And then some of these pumpkins, you could kind of see like they had, the tops of them were a little rough looking. So I just put a little bit of hot glue around the top of them and glued a little bit of the teeny bits of the Spanish moss left over onto them. All in all, I think this turns out so cute. It will be a beautiful small little centerpiece. It would be perfect for like a coffee table, especially like so it doesn't block your view to the TV or something. I love how this turns out. My mom recently gave me a bag of stuff that she was going to take to the thrift store, and in that bag was a bunch of these little blocks. Now, I remember these from when I was younger. She used to have a lot of fun different sayings that she had on them, the cute little designs and everything, but clearly she was done with them and they are not quite my style, so I thought I would give them a little bit of an update. So I'm just taking 3 of these, and there was like 20 or more of these blocks. There's a lot of them, so I've got a lot of DIYs with these coming up, I'm sure. Anyway, I just covered them all in some white paint, just some chalk paint. It did take several coats just because of the dark letters on there. I probably could have sanded them down, but I was feeling, I guess, a little bit lazy this day. And so I just went over and painted them all and gave them a really good coat. Now I'm just trimming some burlap ribbon. You could easily do just some regular burlap or whatever you would like. You could completely skip this step if you wanted to, but I thought it would be kind of fun to add this little burlap on here as a little bit of a texture. So I'm just peeling a couple of the strings off around the edges to kind of fray it. I wanted this to look a little bit rustic, maybe not quite so uniform. I know that the burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, it seems to, for lack of a better term, fall apart a lot easier. So it could probably look a little bit more rustic, because I know that when I've made things with that, I feel like the strings fall out of it really easy, like the burlap weave. I didn't have any of that on hand, so this is just some I had from Hobby Lobby. So I just went ahead and cut this down to size, and then as I did that, I was just peeling pieces off, and then I actually kind of scratched the edges here to make sure it kind of has a little bit more of a rustic. So this is kind of up to you and what your taste is. And then I'm just going to use some hot glue to put on the back of these. Now, before I glue these on, I have all of these little pieces. They have things like this from Dollar Tree, like the little wooden stickers. Some of these are just in my stash. I think they all just came from different craft stores, and I just found a couple of leaves, and I was going to use that little truck up in the corner there on the right hand side. However, I decided it's a little bit too big for the block, like it kind of hung over a teeny bit and I didn't love it, so I do end up not using that, but just using some hot glue. I'm just carefully gluing that burlap on. You just want to make sure either wear your finger protectors or be really cautious as you're putting those down, because I mean that burlap, it's going to let that glue seep through, so you just don't want to burn yourself doing this. And I end up doing this on all 3 blocks. I'm just putting these little leaves on here. I thought those were really cute. And originally, like I said, I'd wanted to put that little truck on that block that's on the top there, and so I was going to leave it blank, but it just didn't quite fit, and it just didn't look right to me. So I go ahead and cut just another piece of the burlap using the same method and just glue that down for the top one, and take one of these cute little pumpkins and I just glue that on. This is just one of the wooden stickers, and you could tailor this to any season or any holiday that you wanted. But this was so simple, and it's just cute. It just brings that little essence of fall into your decor. It would be darling on a tiered tray or anywhere that you wanted to set something like this, even just a little gift to take somebody. So easy, and it turned out so cute. For this DIY, we're going to dress up a wooden garland. Now you can buy wooden garlands at Hobby Lobby. They have them in their fall section. They also have them in their Christmas section where their Christmas tree garland is. You can, I've seen that Dollar Tree has started carrying wooden beads now too. I have not seen them in mine. You may have to buy several strands though to be able to make a garland. So I'm just showing you how to make your own here. You just take some jute twine and a little bit of tape on the end of it, and that way it will stop the jute from fraying when you put it in. So this is the pattern that I decided to do. I did the big one in the middle, and then on either side of that I did the next size down, and then I did 10 of the smallest beads in between. And I'll put the measurements of the beads and a link to the beads that I used down in my description box. But I did buy these little burlap leaves at Hobby Lobby. They were $5.99 for a package and then 40% off. And you would really only need to use one package. You wouldn't need to do the plain burlap ones. I just had those as well, and so I thought I would add those in. And this is so simple, guys. So if you don't make your garland and you just buy one or have one, this will take you just a matter of like a couple of minutes, and it is so easy. So these leaves have a little bit of wire on the top of them. And so I just find not a neutral, but a space that I'm going to wrap the wire around just in between the bead so it kind of hooks onto the jute twine, and I do it on the same place of my pattern. So if you don't have a pattern of like larger and smaller beads to follow, you're just going to count in between, and like every 10th bead or every 5th bead, whatever your desired length is, you'll count that many beads and then place a leaf. So it is so simple, but honestly, this makes such an impact. So if you have like a mantle, I happen to have my beaded garland hanging over a big mirror in my family room. So when I put these leaves on there, it really does just add a really big pop of fall. But this is so simple and so easy that anybody can do this. And I just think that it's so cute, and it's something that you can switch up for different holidays. They're easily removed, and so you don't have to do a lot of change with your decoration to just add that little touch of fall. But look at how cute this looks all together. I think this is so darling. I love it. So this is kind of a decorating hack as well as a DIY, and by DIY I mean that in the simplest of forms. Hobby Lobby has these darling little wreaths. They have them for all different seasons. I've seen them also like at Walmart, Michael's, JoAnns, Dollar Tree once upon a time, but I haven't seen them there for years. I also found these cute little cutting or charcuterie boards at Hobby Lobby. I found this little sign blank there as well, so I picked that up, and I loved the buffalo check design on this. If you don't have a cutting board or you want to have a patterned one like that buffalo checked one, I will leave a link to a video down in my description box where I did decoupage some craft paper onto a cutting board from IKEA that turned out super cute. But all you're going to do is just take one of these wreaths and you're going to wrap the jute twine, kind of bend the jute twine in half, and then wrap the little loop around and pull the tails through. So you can kind of watch what I do here. And then you're going to just use this as a decoration on the cutting board. So at first on this circular one, I was going to tie it around the neck, and then realized with that fun little handle on there that I would wrap it through, and I love how this looks. So it's just me wrapping this around the top, and then I do tie it off, and I use a little dot of hot glue to hold this on, because I want to be able to change the wreath out as the seasons go, or maybe not even have a wreath if I decide at some point that it's too much or I want a more simplistic look. On this cute little charcuterie board that has the buffalo check, I love the orange with this black and white here. I just think that totally screams fall and even a little bit of Halloween if you're not one to decorate with necessarily Halloween decorations, but like to have the color scheme. It's perfect. So this just shows you up close how I get this on here. It's so easy. You just loop that through and you pull the tails through. And that just makes it so you don't have to really untie anything. You can just kind of pull that loose when you're ready to change this out. And this will be so fun. I will definitely change this one out because I have buffalo check for my winter decoration. So I will be able to put a Christmas wreath or tag or something on here. And then of course you just take it around the neck and you just tie it in just a knot. And I mean, how much simpler can you get than that? But I love the way it looks, and it is so stylish right now with the different cutting boards and charcuterie boards to have them layered and stacked like in your hutch or on your against your backsplash in your kitchen. And how fun would that be on one of them to have a darling wreath? Now, I don't expect you to be tying a wreath to like all of your cutting boards, you know, just kind of do it a little bit sparingly, but this just shows you the different looks and the different ideas to hopefully inspire you. Now, if you don't have a cutting board and you don't have a way to get one, or you happen to have a sign blank at home, this is another way to get it on. You're going to use one of these little command hooks. I didn't even have any more of the backings that go on them, so I just use a little bit of hot glue to hot glue it onto the sign. So I kind of place my wreath and get an idea of where how low I want the little hook to go, and then I just add a little bit of hot glue to get that to adhere. So simple, so easy. Now the main part of the wreath is a little too thick to fit in the command hook, so you're just gonna find one of the little vines that's there and kind of pull it up to be able to hook over that. And then these all have wire in them, the branches, so you're easily able to kind of mold them and cover that up so you can't see that. You can kind of strategically place a leaf if you need to or something. But this, I mean, you could take the ties off of this and use this anywhere. You could hang it. But just to add a little bit of fall that is so easy and something that looks a little bit custom, not just a plain wreath, but dress it up a little bit with something, if that makes sense. I just think this looks so fun, and not only so fun, but I just think it's darling. Here's all three looks together. Which one of these would you like in your home? I think these are so cute and so simple and literally no skill, guys. Anybody can do this. You guys know how much I love a good farm truck DIY. So I found this little planter. It was from Hobby Lobby. It wasn't their spring collection, but I have seen they have them for fall and Christmas as well, I think. I've also seen other planters similar to this at Walmart and at JoAnns, or you could do this with any type of planter that you have. So this one in particular didn't have the windows or the tires painted in, and I actually did like the look of that. I do know at the ones they have for fall at Hobby Lobby, they already have this step done, so you wouldn't have to do this, because my lines are not the straightest. You guys know that I'm horrible at freehanding stuff, but that's okay. I'm okay with it. It just looks a little bit more farmhouse or whatever. But I do take my time and I go through on each tire, all 4 tires, and then the windows on the sides. I even do the little door handle, and then I also make sure that I do the front window in there as well. So that way, you know, all the windows look like it's an actual truck. So you could leave it either way that you wanted, or if you bought one that had these in, you could totally skip this step. Now I could glue this Spanish moss down if I wanted, but I put a lot in there, so it is pretty tight and secure in there, and I do like the fact that I can change this out for different seasons. You guys know I love that. I'm taking this brush that has a little bit of white paint on there and thought I would paint like a little sheen on the windows there, so that's totally optional too. This cute little pick, I loved the sunflower on this, so you could find whatever pick you like from Dollar Tree, Walmart, the craft store, Hobby Lobby, anywhere. And I'm just gonna cut it all up here, as you can see, because I want to control the placement of everything. It was a little bulky the way that it was, and I just start playing around and sticking things in. Now I do end up gluing some of these in towards the end, so that way they could have some stability and everything. So it's up to you if you glue this in, how permanent, or how, if you want to change this out. I feel like the amount of glue that I put was so little that I could easily peel it off once I wanted to change this out for a different season. But I'm just kind of going around doing what looks good, what feels good. I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do this part. It's just what you like, what you want showcased. I really wanted that pumpkin kind of close to the front there. And by the front, I mean the side, I guess, because it's going to be sideways how I'm going to display it. Now on the sunflower, I decide that I don't like that leaf placement, so I just turn it over to the side there and I glue it to the other leaf. That way I make sure that it's not going anywhere. It's going to stay over on that side, because I felt like that looked a little bit better from the front of how I have it displayed. Here's where I come in and I put a little bit of glue on these leaves at the back to kind of give them a little bit more support and keep them in. So that way I just want it so if it gets bumped into, it's not going to fall apart or anything, and it's very sturdy. But look at how cute this looks. I just love this. I think it's perfect for fall. It would be great on a tiered tray, or, you know, I like to just tuck things in wherever you need a little bit of fall festive feel or something like that. But I just love how this turns out. I have these 3 pumpkins that came from Dollar Tree, and these 2 pumpkins have these little burlap, like printed burlap things on the front of them. So I am just going to take those off to complete my project here. And to cover up the space where I took that off, I am just going to kind of run my finger around some craft paper to get a template. And I'm going to cut that out, and then I just use some glue stick and some hot glue to kind of cover that up to make it look a little bit more nice, a little bit more high end. For this bigger pumpkin, I'm going to use this in the middle of these 3 pumpkins. So I am painting it just a white color. I believe it's just plaster from Waverly, but any color that you want to do your pumpkins in to match your decor. Most of my DIYs this fall have been the moss Waverly chalk paint color, the pumpkin Waverly chalk paint color, and then plaster in Waverly chalk paint. So when I get to the top of this, I realize that it has this little hole in there, like where a little twine string went. So I do use just some spackle to put in there to kind of cover that up, let that dry and sand it off, paint it over to kind of make it look like it's all one piece and that's not even there. So using those paint colors that I mentioned there, I'm going to paint one pumpkin with the moss color, and then I will paint the other pumpkin with the pumpkin color. I then go back in and I will do my stems. I will do green stems on my orange and white pumpkin and a brown stem on my green pumpkin. Apparently, before I paint my stems, I'm going to go in and I do want these little raised areas on this center pumpkin to show up and have a lot of depth and dimension. And so I do go in with that antiquing wax on just a little teeny brush, and I go around the edges of all of these little raised areas. So that way it kind of defines them a little bit more. So from far away, you can see that they're there. You wouldn't have to do this. It's just, it makes them pop a little bit more. I also go around the whole edge of the pumpkin to do that on all of the edges. All right, here's where I go in and paint the stem of my pumpkin. So again, I do 2 green stems, and then you'll see me in a minute do a brown stem on my green pumpkin. So I do go around the edge of these with a little bit of antiquing wax. I just really like the definition that this provides. This is completely optional. I just like the way that it looks. You could even go in and do a little bit more definition on the pumpkin, give it kind of its round ridges. I don't really know what those little bumps on the pumpkins are called. If you know, let me know. But I'm putting some words on these, so I'm just leaving them more blank in the center so those words pop. Hobby Lobby has these wooden words in their fall section this year. They say grateful, thankful, and blessed. You get like 3 of each, I believe, 2 or 3 of each in the package, and they are just a couple of dollars. It's a really good deal, I feel. And I've used them a lot, so I really have gotten my money's worth out of them. But I do cover these up with the white chalk paint. You could do them in any color that you want. A stained wood would look good. I just wanted that white to pop really well off of the orange and the green and have it tie into that middle pumpkin. I am just using some Gorilla super glue here, and I will just place those letters down. I don't measure things a lot, so if you want to measure them to get them a little bit more centered or straight, definitely do that. I'm kind of more of a eyeball it type of gal. So again, I just kind of glue these, stick them into as close to center as I get them, and call it good. On my cutting machine, I cut out an ampersand. I do know they sell different styles of wood cutout ampersands at Walmart for I think like $1.97 or something. So that would be an alternative that you could do. You could even freehand one on there or print one out and cut it, decoupage it on there. A lot of different ways that you can do that to kind of make it if you don't have a cutting machine. I'm going over it with a little bit of the plaster chalk paint to dull down the glossiness of the vinyl, because I don't think the glossiness really is all I had, and it didn't really fit with the whole project, so that's why I did that. And then I'm just going to glue the center pumpkin to the other 2. So these other 2 pumpkins have that little stand on the bottom of them, so that will act as the stand that will hold the whole sign up. And you can just see I'm just kind of eyeballing it there, getting it to look good. Guys, look at how cute this looks. I'm so excited for this one. So I'm taking some raffia that I have, and I'm just tying 2 little raffia bows, and I'm just kind of cutting them down and sizing them as best I can to make sure that they kind of match the size of the pumpkins to how I want it to look. This is probably my most favorite project I've created all season. I love how this turned out, and really it was like less than $4. What do you guys think of this one? Have you seen these pumpkins at Dollar Tree? They're so cute and they have the little metal letters on them, but you can see when you take them off, they've kind of put a little bit of shadowing on there. So I don't want that because I'm going to change the words that I want on my pumpkin. So I'm just painting it with some pumpkin chalk paint, and then I'm going to put a little bit of definition in here with my antiquing wax. You can see I just kind of put a little bit on the edge of my sponge brush and kind of just copy that curvature. And then I'm going around the edge of the pumpkin here, and then to dull that down a little bit so it's not so harsh, I do go back over it with a little bit of the pumpkin chalk paint. And then I'm just painting my stem in the moss color with chalk paint here. What I'm doing with this project is I'm going to use it in a wreath. So I am using some of this 6-foot garland and then some picks that I found at Hobby Lobby. Now, my pumpkin is going to sit off to the side on my wreath form that I got from Dollar Tree there. And so my garland only needs to go around like 3/4 of the form, if that makes sense. So I'll kind of show you here that I set it to the point where my pumpkin would stop, and this is a 6-foot garland, like I said, and so it will double up. So as it gets around to the next pot, I will take the other half of it and curve it back around. And so this is what's going to give a very thick look to your wreath. Now, I was looking at wreaths at Hobby Lobby the other day, and like wreaths that were this full were upwards of like $150. Now, granted, they have their 40% off on fall, but still, that's a lot of money. I don't want to spend that much on a wreath that I'm going to use for a month, maybe 2 months. So I'm just zip tying this on. I do the top portion of the garland all the way around. I zip tie it where there's a little break in the wreath form that I can go around. And then I do that second layer, the same thing. Just go around zip tying it so it's not going everywhere. I got these zip ties at Dollar Tree. So you get in there in the automotive section. So if you're looking for zip ties, there's a little package that comes with black and red ones. So I just use all the black ones. So you can see how my pumpkin will fit in there. I'm just checking to make sure how good that looks. And then what I do is stick before I zip tie any of these in, I stick them all in and make sure that they're placed where I want them to be and the spacing's all correct. So I have 6 picks that have like berries or pumpkins on them, so like 3 of each. And then I believe I have 3 or 4 of the hydrangeas, and I just kind of go in between and just make a little pattern. Now, these little hydrangeas, I just wrap that wire stem around to hook those in because those are not going anywhere. And I did not show me zip tying the other things in because my head was in the way completely as I was filming. So I thought you'd enjoy looking at the wreath, not my head. But I just zip tied all of those into wherever there was a wire next to them, the little picks. And then you can see I'm just bending the pick part here in or wrapping it around a wire if I can to give it some extra stability. Look at how full this looks. I think this is so pretty. And I just go back in and cut all the backs off of the zip ties here. And now on my cutting machine, I did cut out Hello Pumpkin, and I do use a little bit of painter's tape if your mat loses some stickiness. Somebody told me a baby wipe might work too. So you could go ahead and put the words back on. That looks so cute if you don't have a cutting machine or you don't want to take the time to do this. I just really, since it's my front door wreath, I wanted it to say hello on it. So I thought Hello Pumpkin would be really cute to do. So I'm just going to weed this out, and I want it to kind of look galvanized because I did like the look of the galvanized words. So I kind of lightly tap over with a stencil brush with Silver Lining and Elephant were the 2 colors of chalk paint that I kind of go back and forth. And I just want to let you know that from my front door when I'm standing there in person, it totally looks galvanized. Like you would have to get right up next to it. It doesn't come across on camera as well as I had hoped. But I kind of, after I got all of this done right here, I was like, this is all going to stick to the transfer tape and it's going to get all over my pumpkin. Like I started to panic a little bit. It didn't. Like I did use a little bit of a Q-tip and a baby wipe to kind of go in and clean up the negative space there. So that way when I put my transfer tape down, it didn't pick all of that paint up. So I did that as best as I could and kind of thought, well, we'll hope for the best. It totally worked out just fine. One trick that I did with this is I placed my transfer tape on my table so I knew that it wasn't going anywhere, and then I just used my fingers down below to move my pumpkin around to center it. So if that makes sense, hopefully, but that's kind of a way to help get things centered. And I, again, just eyeballed it as best I could, and I just think, look at how good that looks. And like I say, on camera, it doesn't look so much like galvanized metal, but in person, guys, like it really does. Like it looks so good. So I do just go in here and I have a crocodile that I cut a couple of holes in the top and bottom to zip tie this on. You would not have to do that. You could easily hot glue this in. You could easily punch a hole in it with like a nail and a hammer or something to zip tie down at the bottom or something like that. There's a lot of different ways to get that affixed to it. And then I take just a couple little loose leaves to kind of cover those zip ties, so that way you're not going to see them. It's not going to come off of there. And then you can kind of see up on the right hand side of the top of my pumpkin, it was a little bare. So I'm just going to come and glue. And I just honestly turned my wreath over and picked a couple of leaves from the back to do this with. So stinking cute. I love this wreath. Guys, this easily would have been over $100 at Hobby Lobby, the way that their wreaths were priced. And I mean, I probably spent a little bit, probably less than 30 on it, and it's homemade. It's going to last me years and years. I love this. You can go over with decoupage on your pumpkin to seal it, but what do you think of this one? I love it. I got these at Hobby Lobby. I got this cute little white pumpkin. They had lots of different colors, and this is in the bridal section, over kind of by the bridal section. They have these little succulent bouquets and then little sprigs over there. So I just waited until those were 50% off to do this. So I'm just going to remove the stem on this pumpkin. They are styrofoam under whatever painted surface this is on them. So I just removed the stem, and now I'm just unwrapping this little succulent bouquet, and I'm just going to unwind it and get all of the little sprigs separate. So it's kind of nice because when you get it 50% off for $6, you get all, like, it's all together. You don't have to buy a bunch of little sets of different succulents. It comes all together. It's all matched, I guess is what I'm saying. So I did take my scissors and kind of pop off a little bit of that coating that's on the pumpkin to get down to expose the styrofoam. And then I literally just kind of started playing around, sticking in different succulents. If I needed to trim them down, I used my wire cutters to trim them down. And then I'm just going to keep placing them in and keep going around. Now, when I do get to the little long fern-like leaves like this here that I have, I realized they were very long for what I wanted to do. So I do trim off a couple inches off of the end, and then those little leaves just pull right off. And so you can kind of see, I'm like, that's really long. So you'll see what I'm talking about here. I just trim those with my wire cutters, and those leaves just pull right off to give you another little stem to stick down into your styrofoam. I am not at all like trained in this area at all. I just kind of go for what feels good and what looks right. And so there's really no right or wrong way. That's why I like the simplicity of picking up the little bouquet, is because they're already kind of matched together. So I'll just let you watch kind of how this goes, and hopefully that will help inspire you. So as you can see, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my eucalyptus leaves here. So to fix that, I just put a little hot glue on one of the leaves to attach it. That way it just kind of fills in that negative space that I did not want there. And I did pick up a couple little extra sprigs of the succulents I showed at the beginning of the video in the wedding section to kind of make this a little bit fuller. So you can see how that looks. I just stick the stem back in there. That would be totally optional, but I absolutely love how this turned out. I think it looks so chic and so cute. Hiding in my stash, I found this Easter tag sign from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to take my emery board and file off as much glitter as I can. I then will take some of this brown craft paper and I will cut it to size. And then in order to make this fit the best that I can, I'm just going to lay it on my sign, and I will run my finger over the edge of the sign to indent that shape of the sign into the paper. So when I go cut it with my scissors, I can get the closest shape that I can. To adhere this to the sign, I'm going to use just some trusty old glue stick and some hot glue. I'm going to do this for a couple of reasons. First and foremost is there is a lot of glitter that is on this sign, and this will contain any that is left. We all know how much Dollar Tree loves their glitter. I swear they must own stock in a glitter company or something because they use a lot of glitter. So it will contain that. And the next is it's just obviously going to cover the design that is there up. It takes less paint, and it is going to make it look a little bit more high end, kind of take it to the next level. So I just put my hot glue around the edge, and then once I place that craft paper down, I use my Mod Podge roller to flatten that out a little bit, and that just really helps adhere that. Then I'll just take my emery board, and in a downward motion, I will just file off the edges of that craft paper, and that's going to give it that very crisp look. On the top and the bottom of the sign, I am going to put this cute little pumpkin craft paper that I did get from Hobby Lobby, and I'm using my ruler to get as straight of line as I can, and then to keep that straight line, I will just use the edge of the paper. You can kind of see how I'm doing that there. And then the same thing, I will just rub my finger over the edge of the sign to indent that, and I will go in with my scissors and cut it as close as I can. And then same thing on this paper. To get that crisp edge, I just use my emery board. You can use a finger sander, sandpaper, anything that you like that works, and just do it in a downward motion softly, and that will just give you that crisp, clean edge. And then I will do the same thing on the bottom of this to add that same craft paper. So again, I just line my little paint stir stick there up on the edge of my tag sign, and then kind of eyeball where I want my paper to go up to. And then I will use the other straight edge of this paper to use as my top line. That will give it that crisp, clean, straight edge on the top there. You can see how I do that. And then of course, the same motions here. Put your finger or to indent the sign, and then actually I guess this one I don't really need to do that because you can just cut it since it's straight as close to the edge, and then you'll just sand off the edges of the paper like this. So I did use my Cricut cutting machine. You can use any type of rub-on transfers or stickers. If you are at all familiar with my channel, you know that I absolutely cannot freehand things no matter how hard I try. It is very frustrating to me. And as much as I would love to perfect that, I just don't have the patience to do it. So I did use this little design that was in Cricut Design Space to cut these words out. So, and if you guys have been here for a little while, you know that I have lost my Cricut scraping tool, and I found it. So I'm so excited that that is back in my life, and I can stop using my hotel key momentarily until I lose it again, I'm sure. So I'm just going to push this down onto my sign here. Farm Fresh Pumpkin Patch. I just love the font that was on that. And then it also had this little You Pick sign that I'm going to put down there on the bottom. And as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, I have this darling little truck that I got from Hobby Lobby. I think it was like $2.99, and then of course they're 40% off. I'm just going to glue this on there. It will give it that cute little three-dimensional look, and I'm just using hot glue for this. And I thought this was the perfect way to use this little truck. It would also be super cute on like a tiered tray or something, but I just love this little sign that I'm making. And I'm just using my little weeding tool. You could use whatever to stick through where that hole is up at the top of your tag sign, because I'm going to use some rope to stick through here so that way we can hang our tag. So any kind of twine or string or whatever you have that you want to use to do this with will work. I just unraveled some Dollar Tree rope and tied a knot into the end of one of the little strands, and then I just stuck it through as you saw there. And then on the knot portion, I just put a little bit of hot glue under that. That's going to make that knot so it doesn't slip up at all. You never see it and it'll stay secure. And then just do some Mod Podge. You probably maybe want to do that before you glue your truck on, but I kind of forgot. But what do you guys think of this? I'm just smitten with this. I think it's absolutely darling. I'm going to take this pizza pan from Dollar Tree and we're going to make a sign out of it. On the bottom layer, I put a layer of Mod Podge. My thinking with this is since I am putting a decal on it, I did not want my paint to come up when I lifted that transfer paper off. So I thought that maybe the Mod Podge on the bottom would help it to adhere better, the paint. So I'm not sure whether my paint didn't have that problem when I did pull my transfer tape up. So I'm not sure if that was the reason or what, but that's what I did. So I'm just letting you know. I do put 3 coats of paint on this and I do let it dry thoroughly in between each coat of paint. And then as my last top coat, I use this satin Mod Podge here and I just put this all over the top of it to seal in the paint. And then I actually did let this dry overnight because I really did not want any of the paint to come up. All right, so what I do is a trick that if your mat for your cutting machine ever loses its stick, I just put a little bit of painter's tape on the corners of my paper and I have not had any problem with them slipping since I started doing this. So that's just a little tip for you there if you have a cutting machine and use it. If you don't have a cutting machine, what you'll want to do is just find an image online that you can print out and you'll just use a decoupage method to decoupage your design into the middle of the pizza pan that I'm using. So I'm just going to weed my design out. I'll put a link to this design. I got it off Etsy and I absolutely loved the simplicity of it. I love to add a little bit of pop of orange into my fall decor because I really just love how the orange color pops. But I'm kind of loving having just a few pops of orange and then some neutrals with it. And I think this sign does a perfect job with that. So I'm just going to show you here that as I weed this, that sometimes the image is too big to weed, that I just cut it off in sections as I pull it up. And that's something that's totally fine to do. It makes it a little bit easier to work with because the worst thing is when your little portion that you're working with sticks back down and then starts to pull up the letters or something. So just know that that's, if you already know that hack and you do that, that's great. If you don't, then that is something that is so much easier to cut it off in little sections like that. After you get the main portion of your decal off of there, you have to go back in and weed out all of the letters. So that's what I'm doing here. And then I will get some transfer tape and I will take it to put onto my pizza pan. So I do my best to center this. Transfer tape and me sometimes have a love-hate relationship. Sometimes I absolutely love it. And then the next time I go to use it, like it sticks and it's not the best. It actually worked out very well for me today. So I just place this down and then I do measure it with my ruler to make sure that I'm getting it as centered as possible. If you know me at all or you've watched me, you know that I am not a measurer. So this is very rare that I pull my ruler out and do check, but I did want to get this as centered as possible. Once I am certain with where I want it, I do just use my little hotel key to scrape because I can't find my Cricut scraper anywhere. And then I just peel back the transfer tape, leaving the design on there. And if you have a little spot or something that wants to come up with you, you just kind of go hold it down and peel it back and it works just fine. But I love this design. I think this is going to be so cute. And I don't know whether I'm going to put this in my China hutch or put it in my living room or somewhere. I just think this turned out so cute and it was so easy. For this DIY, there's a couple of different ways that you can make this. So you can make it with this little pumpkin that you see there. If you don't have a pumpkin, I have this little sheet from Dollar Tree to use. And then of course the back is just a wood canvas that I bought at Walmart. $6 or $7, I believe was what it was. I'm just going to take some scrapbook paper, and I loved this color of plaid. I wanted a plaid for sure in the background. So I just had to, since it didn't fit quite, I kind of had to match it up as best I could. So you're just going to take the back out of this little wood canvas, and then I just measure my paper down to make sure that it fit. And then here I am just putting some good old school glue, the little school glue stick, I should say, onto the backing of my little wood canvas. And then I will just use my Mod Podge roller to make sure that this adheres extremely well to that. And this will become the back of our canvas there. So you can see how that looks there. I guess this is kind of like a reverse canvas. So what I'm going to do is take this little sign from Dollar Tree and remove the center stuff. And then I just cut some scrapbook paper down to size to fit inside of it. Just got some coordinating paper to fit. And you can see that you could use one of those little pumpkins from Hobby Lobby or something. Anything you have would be fine. But what I'm going to do is trace this on the back of this little, this is like a tile, like a plastic tile from Dollar Tree. Kind of looks like that, like faux tin. And so I'm just going to cut my shape of the pumpkin out. This stuff is like very thin plastic. It cuts extremely easy. And then I cover it with some plaster chalk paint, and then I go in with my metallic silver, and I go over all of the raised areas. This is just going to make this look like distressed tin. So here's just an up-close look at what this looks like once you've kind of distressed it and added that little silver bit on there. So I'm just making a little mark on my canvas there of where to glue my second sign onto. The plaid lines really help because you have kind of like straight lines to go off of. So I'm just putting some hot glue on the back of this and then measuring that up there. I just love how these two papers look together. I think they are so cute. This is just the original riser that came on that sign, so I glue that down, and then I'm just going to glue the pumpkin. I will warn you that this is plastic, so it will start to melt the pumpkin if you push too hard. So maybe super glue might work a little bit better, or if you use hot glue, just don't push very firmly on it. And then I take a jumbo popsicle stick here, or craft stick, and cut it to the same size as the pumpkin. And then I just weather it up with some antiquing wax here. So I just use a baby wipe to wipe that on. And then I'm doing a water slide decal on here. These are so amazing. I recently discovered these. I'll leave some more information about them in my description box if you'd like to know. But it says, "Meet me at the pumpkin patch." I thought that was so cute. So I just made another little riser out of a part of an old craft stick or paint stick and glued that on. And then I will use that to glue my cute little sign onto the front of the pumpkin. This particular DIY completely blew all of my expectations out of the water. I kind of had a vision for it, and as it came together, I loved it more and more. You'll have to let me know what you guys think of this one. Personally, I think it turned out so classy, and I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this fall mega video. I really appreciate you taking the time to support my channel. If you do like any of the things that you saw today, remember to hit that thumbs up, and I would love if you would consider subscribing. As always, guys, remember to be safe, be smart, be nice, be happy, choose to have a good day because you are amazing. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed the video that you just saw, here's another one that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and have an amazing day.